Les gens n'ont aucune idée qu'il y a quelqu'un ici.
Elle a quitté. Passer sur son Discord, je l'ai appelé.
Après avoir passé une bonne partie de la journée à faire des proches, j'ai décidé de rester discret jusqu'à la tombée de la nuit. On se retrouve en fin de journée. J'ai passé littéralement la journée à faire des proches.
Elle a le mire. On voit rien.
Je pense qu'on va se faire plaisir avec un petit Fanta. Ah, mais c'est délicieux. Ça fait du bien après une longue journée de prank en public. Honnêtement, ça fait déjà presque 1 heure que je n'entends presque plus personne marcher. On est tranquille, tu vois. Je vous montre mon dîner. C'est des bonbons, d'accord? Si ça continue comme ça, j'ai mangé que des bonbons pendant 7 jours. Je viens de regarder la météo et on a un petit problème pour demain. Demain, c'est la journée la plus chaude de la semaine. Il annonce 32 degrés. Non, mais sérieusement, moi j'ai complètement mourir ici. La PS5 va exploser.
Je paye la quête.
Tu veux ma Switch? Alors, on va t'en
Like, right, this guy's longevity is unmatched. Andalex has done it on so many different levels. And, you know, when you look at French Fortnite right now, there's an argument to be said that, you know, things haven't been going as smoothly for them. But if you think things are going to get better, you'd think Andalex will be a part of it, right? He made it to the Global Championships last year playing with Sato. And as a whole, right, that trio now that they picked up Marco, who's not French, by the way, but still part of the French, you know, trio in that sense. You know, they're looking all right, not looking maybe as strong as some of the other premier trios in the region, but I think they have a chance in this group today. And if Andalex is leading and doing what we know he can, you know, I think they got a good chance of making it to the Major One finals for sure, Zeke.
Okay, I like that. I mean, like you said, he already has some of that experience, right? He's made it to the Fortnite Global Championship before.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, and all we have to do today, right, is either a victory royale or place top 5 in terms of consistency. The experience alone that Andalex has, I believe, will be enough to carry them through the distance. But there's also a couple other trios we want to highlight, like his old partner, X-Squeeze, who's now partnered up with Akira and Podesai. These guys are landing over at Lost Lake. I mean, what else can you tell me about this trio?
Yeah, I mean, that trio I'm very excited about. The one thing I would say, just quickly on Andalex, right, is he's got 2 great talents with him, right, in Seon, right? He's got 5 great talents with him, right, in Seon. This trio's a trio.
Déjà, je peux ça commence à y avoir plus de temps.
Dans ma Switch. Mets-toi au pile de la
La porte ouverte, ma pièce secrète n'est plus vraiment secrète. Ce que je vous ai pas dit, c'est qu'il y a des agents de sécurité qui surveillent parfois les tas. C'est quand même très chaud de laisser la porte ouverte toute la journée. Il y a tout le monde qui passe et qui me regarde.
Vous cherchez une voiture d'occasion? Auto Hero vous propose de super offres.
Non, mais là, je suis pas du tout discret, mais en même temps, c'est impossible de rester ici. La porte fermée, il fait beaucoup trop chaud. Ah non, mais je dois laisser la porte ouverte parce qu'il fait beaucoup trop chaud. Le seul problème, c'est que tous ceux qui vont passer vont me voir et vont me griller. J'ai alors passé la journée avec la porte de la pièce secrète ouverte. Ce qui me fait plus
Moi, je vais avaler mon film.
la police. Ça serait vraiment dommage. Et c'est justement en fin de journée que ma plus grande peur s'est réalisée.
C'est un 5 4.
La sécurité. Excusez-moi, je sais plus.
Il y a 2 tournevis et des lunettes.
Et même des piles.
Ah ouais, il est la scène. Je peux les mettre?
Ouais, vas-y.
Mais comme ça.
Oh là là, enlève ça de suite. Enlève ça.
Tu peux pas aller tout d'acmêler?
Non, ne fais jamais ça avant toi, ça ne va pas. Par contre, moi, là,
Ah, mais ça te va tellement bien.
je peux prendre ma calculette, tac, racine au carré de tout. Bon, marteau, tiens.
C'est la tienne. Oh là, crève pas son œil.
J'ai failli perdre un. C'est mon côté scientifique qui est retard.
Bon, reprenons. Allez, j'aimerais bien voir ce qui va se passer.
Attends, faut enlever tout le scotch là.
Tu vois, quand tu veux, tu sais ouvrir des trucs.
Faut mettre un peu plus de
Oh,
force.
c'est quoi cette machine là?
C'est quoi ce truc énorme? What? C'est quoi ça?
Voilà.
Prends ça, voilà. On connaît mieux que toi le truc.
Non,
crois qu'il y avait quelque
vous avez
chose
juste
dedans.
tout déchiré.
Ok, qu'est-ce qu'on a là?
Dedans, on va mettre de l'eau en fait.
J'ai de l'eau. Vas-y, Choco, viens, on l'aide. Hop.
De l'eau.
Attention, un maximum, hein. Mettez pas à fond.
Vas-y, stop. Mais dis stop.
Je vois bien c'est fini. Oh.
Ouais.
Ah.
Mais c'est que regarde
Non mais t'inquiète pas, moi j'ai le droit en mot. Ok, on peut enlever tout ça, hop, hop, hop. Ça c'est le manuel d'utilisation.
Ah, mais de toute façon, il est dans ta tête.
Ouais.
C'est bon, t'as confiance.
Mais garde-le à côté, on sait jamais. Oh,
C'est du liquide.
Non, attendez. Alors pourquoi ça commence à devenir chimique et très chimique, donc faut faire attention.
Et toi, t'as osé boire.
mais oui, mais parce que ça c'est pas très grave, t'inquiète pas. Alors, on commence par mettre les piles là-dessus.
Ah, s'il faut des piles, c'est que ça va être du lourd.
Ok. Première étape, on l'allume.
Ah non, pourquoi là c'est une agri là. Là, c'est un bis.
Attends, mais là faut se protéger là, elles sont où tes lunettes?
Mes lunettes. Mais je sais même pas ce qu'on en a fait. Bref.
Mais fais-le pas tomber.
Mais pas de blague.
J'allais prendre les lunettes de protection.
On va pas commencer normalement. Tac. Ça commence. 7 minutes. Il y a des joueurs ou pas qui sont beaux. Encore 7 minutes. C'est pourquoi même cette minute. Vas-y, on va se regarder ça pour l'instant.
Ok, seul ce doigt-là peut déverrouiller ce qu'il y a à l'intérieur. Regardez. Hop.
Il va se passer quoi? Il va se passer.
Ok, vous êtes prêts ou pas?
Oui. Non mais il va pas y avoir de la mousse et tout.
Non, t'inquiète pas. Ça va pas exploser.
Attends, mais ça fait des bulles là, t'entends le bruit?
Non, mais attends. Il va se passer quoi? Vas-y, mets-le.
Il va rien se passer. Vas-y, bien sûr. Hop, il y a plusieurs étapes.
Vas-y.
C'est bon, t'as mis l'eau?
C'est bon, j'ai mis l'eau.
Maintenant que t'as mis l'eau, on tourne d'un cran juste ici.
Ok.
Ensuite, je mets quoi?
Attends 2 secondes, ça arrive, ton tour. Hop.
Il est impatient.
Ok. Voilà. Maintenant, tu nous mets le fossile.
Ok, vas-y.
Facile.
Ouais, c'est une dent de requin.
Comment ça s'ouvre?
Fais pas, j'avoue, mais c'est quoi ça? Vas-y,
Ok.
le suspense.
Oh.
Regarde.
Ça a quel goût?
Ah non, mange pas ça, mais vous êtes dégueulasse, c'est chimique. Tu veux mourir?
C'est bon, je l'ai mis.
Ouah, ça,
Ensuite.
ça me dégoûte. Bref, elle est où la dent?
Elle est dedans.
Mais tu l'as mise dedans?
Bah
Mais
oui.
attends, fallait prévenir. Ok, maintenant faut attendre que ça agisse un petit peu. Je crois qu'on va rajouter un peu d'eau. Envoie-l'eau.
Il faut mettre.
Ouais, ça arrive.
T'es sûr que tu maîtrises ce que tu fais?
Bien sûr.
Qu'est-ce qu'il fait? Mais le rire, il est pas du tout rassurant.
Non, pas trop. Après, ça va te dépasser. Ok, on retourne d'une étape. Hop. Ok.
Ensuite, il faut mettre ça.
Ouais, tu fais attention, ça va gicler de partout, c'est un peu visqueux. Regarde. Ah.
Ça va, l'overreact? Ah ouais, moi, il exagère, oui, ça va, c'est juste lait, mais c'est dégueulasse.
Attends, mais moi j'ai le dernier produit, c'est le produit explosif. Non. Ah, il a une crotte de nez.
Non, mais je suis avec des enfants de 12 ans, mais à l'aide, sauvez-moi là. Sauvez-moi.
Attention, on remonte. Écoute, ça crépite, ça commence à crépiter. Écoute,
Mec,
ça crépite.
regarde, j'ai le truc explosif moi.
Je vais le mettre après, t'inquiète pas. Je remonte d'un étage.
Ouais, il y a de la fumée qui sort.
Ok.
Bah, attends, mais il y a de la
Ça prend feu là.
Ouais, t'inquiète pas, c'est tout à fait normal.
T'es sûr?
Oui.
Il arrive qui? Il arrive. Mais retire ce que t'as dans ton nez. C'est crasseux là. Ensuite, numéro 3, c'est ça qu'il faut mettre.
Voilà, c'est ça, vas-y, je te laisse le mettre à
C'est
l'intérieur
un
aussi.
caillou, hein, j'ai un caillou, non?
C'est ça, allez, vas-y, mets-le.
Mais là, il y a un bruit, t'entends?
Mais t'inquiète pas, ça.
Non, j'arrive pas à l'ouvrir.
Non, attention.
Ça veut pas s'ouvrir.
Mon rocher.
Calme-toi, ton rocher il va bien. Ah, ok, c'est ça qu'il faut mettre dedans.
Ouais, je prends sur moi.
Mais c'est un tablier, c'est pas un vrai truc.
Ok, c'est moi, maintenant c'est à moi.
Vas-y, je te laisse mettre le produit explosif.
Vas-y.
Ok, ça va exploser ou pas?
Mais non, vas-y, mets-le. Y'a rien? Mais non, regarde tout.
Regarde, comment ça mousse.
Ça mousse. Et là, je mets le dernier.
Non.
Attends, faut passer l'étape suivante, laisse-moi faire.
Wesh.
Ok, étape suivante.
Vas-y.
Allez, je mets le
Vas-y, Choco.
dernier. Je crois que c'est vraiment le
Y a pas
dernier des derniers qu'il faut mettre. Oh là là. Ça m'a l'air d'être quoi? C'est quoi ça? Ça me dirait un sorte de ça.
Ah, je croyais qu'elle allait manger.
Ça semble chimique. Ok, 3, 2, 1.
Mais faut pas faire ça.
C'est de l'acide citrique nitrique.
Allez, vas-y, tourne.
Wesh.
Vas-y, tourne.
Quoi, il bug.
Mais voilà, faut faire la manette. La manette.
La manette.
On s'est cassé la machine. Oh.
Attends, il se passe quoi? Pourquoi ça coule?
Regarde. Wesh.
Il est là.
Il est là. Oh, pardon. Il est là.
Oh, mon précieux.
What?
Mon précieux.
Non, mais il est bizarre. What? C'est ça?
Mon précieux. Le super requin de la mort qui tue.
C'est le bis de Mr Beast. Attention, il va tomber. Il y a de l'eau qui va couler. Mais où est passée l'eau d'ailleurs?
Bah, elle est là-dedans.
Mais non, il n'y a plus d'eau.
Normal, le requin, il a tout
C'est
mangé.
de la magie.
Coupe-le, j'arrive pas là.
C'est bon, les gars. On a bientôt fini de le retirer. Vas-y.
Vas-y.
Tire-le. Mais il est malade.
Il veut pas se libérer. Il veut pas se libérer, je vais devenir tout fou là.
C'est pas ce que tu es déjà.
normal. Eh, voilà.
What?
Le dinosaure, ça fait tellement longtemps que je le voulais.
Eh non mais c'est à nous. Mais c'est à nous.
Merci pour ça.
Mais il est malade. Mais c'est un voleur. Il est complètement crazy.
Moi j'ai kiffé cet objet, franchement, je lui mets 5 étoiles.
Mais oui, moi aussi je mets 5 étoiles, mais on me l'a volé.
Mais c'est pas grave, il y en a plein d'autres là.
Bon allez, passons au prochain. Toi Naga, maintenant c'est à ton tour. On est vraiment dans un magasin de Mr Beast, donc choisis.
Vas-y, donc moi je suis choisir dans le magasin de Mister Beast. Le Mister Beast en or.
En or challenge.
Attends, il y en a d'autres.
Hein, quoi?
Il y a lui, c'est le même, mais l'or il est pour moi.
Mais pour...
Viens, on
Qu'est-ce
ça.
que c'est? Mais
Je sais pas du tout, viens on découvre.
c'est pas un jeu ça.
Il y a écrit essaye-moi là dans le petit trou.
ouais.
Regarde. C'est tout mou.
Ah mais c'est un slime.
Attends, j'ai envie d'ouvrir.
Non, c'est un slime. Si ils ont fait du slime Mr Beast, j'ai juré la par contre, je mettrais 5. Quoi? La chance c'est en or toi.
Oula, moi je pense que je vais mettre 5 étoiles. Ça, c'est des objets satisfaisants. Avec ça, tu peux faire de la SMR.
Arrête.
Oh, c'est trop bien.
Non mais la chance moi je peux pas. Moi j'ai pas ça.
Parce qu'il est en or. Ouais. Vas-y. Attends, toi, fais voir.
Mais moi il est pas du tout élastique.
Mais toi, c'est encore mieux. Oh, la matière.
Moi je préfère le tien, il y a du slime, il y a
Ouais,
des...
mais regarde.
C'est tellement satisfaisant.
Le tien, c'était quoi? C'est en mode, tu les tires comme tu veux.
Vas-y, viens, on est
Et regarde, il revient. Oh, mince, je l'ai pas perdu son chien.
Mais pourquoi tu lui retires son pantalon? Il a un peu de pantalon. Mets-toi là.
Mister
Il
Beast
est
à
tout
poil.
nu. Mais arrête, le pauvre. Regardez pas, fermez les yeux. On le remet.
Hop.
Non, mais arrête ton leg. On lui met son pantalon. C'était quoi? On va tirer
Tu
chacun d'un
tires,
côté.
et
Allez,
normalement, c'est un jouet incassable.
Vas-y, on va voir. Mais je crois qu'il va se casser. Ah!
Vas-y,
Imagine,
lâche-le.
il se casse.
Et là, il revient à sa forme. Regarde. T'as vu ça?
Vraiment, sa forme, vas-y, attends, on la refait.
Tu penses
mais
ou pas?
Non, prends son bras et moi je prends son bras.
Ok.
Bon, normalement, c'est lancé là. Fortnite.
So many
Maintenant,
materials, and look, I'll
2014.
teach you something.
Non, moi, un bras, une jambe.
Allez! Ah! Imagine, il se casse sur quelqu'un!
Sur toi! Il va se casser sur toi!
Ah! Ça fait mal!
Le premier qui lâche, il a. Ah, t'as perdu.
Non, mais non, on la refait, on la
regarde,
refait,
il regarde un truc.
C'est quoi? Vas-y, viens, de toute façon, on donne un gage.
Attends, mais laisse-le revenir à ça. Attends, regarde.
Bon, vas-y, moi je te propose un truc, ton lag. La première personne qui lâche a un gage, ok? Bah, ce t'as lâché, t'es bête ou quoi?
Et je pensais que ça. Oh,
Mais toi, lag, t'as lâché, t'as un gage? Pourquoi t'as coupé?
et c'était pour que ça te. truc dedans. Mais ça.
Donc
a
en
pas
plus de vouloir me faire mal, t'as perdu.
Mais attends, mais
T'as
regarde.
un gage, non,
Mais
non,
regarde,
non,
mais-
t'as un gage.
Donne le jouet.
Eh ben non.
Regarde ce qui sort.
What?
Attends. Ah!
Mais c'est rien. Arrête d'essayer de passer à autre chose, t'as un gage, ton lag. Toi, lag, t'es prêt à faire ton gage?
Vas-y, dis-moi, y a rien qui me fait peur.
Ah ouais? Ok, t'es pas. Il est un peu trop serein. Ok, tu vas sauter un parachute.
Let's go! J'ai un peu peur quand même.
Non, je rigole, je vais pas te faire ça. Mais même ça te fait pas peur?
Si tu viens avec moi, non. Si tu le fais,
Ok,
je
non,
le fais.
non. Je veux que tu fasses une story Instagram, une story, non, même pas une vidéo TikTok, tout, partout, même sur YouTube.
Non,
Tu-
mais là, t'abuses.
Bah non, mais si, c'est ça, c'est ton gage. Tu vas faire une vidéo où tu dis Choco, c'est la meilleure.
Mais comment je mets un short, ça?
Ouais, un short.
Bon.
T'as pas le choix, mais c'est ton gage. Hein. Je pensais qu'il y avait rien qui pouvait te faire peur. J'ai dit YouTube, TikTok, avec un gros sourire. Avec un gros sourire.
Ok les gars, regardez, je suis avec Mister Beast, mais surtout, je suis avec Choco. Parce que
Ah
Choco.
non, t'as pas compris. Ah non, je suis pas dans ta vidéo, toi tout seul, tu dis ça. Quoi? Bah si, c'est trop facile. Je pensais qu'il y avait rien qui pouvait te faire peur.
Je vais te faire un gaspillage.
Here today. Now, odds, I will put it in Queasy's favor, but time will tell. Quick reminder for those that missed the first group, it is going to be 5 matches that are played out today. To qualify to the major finals, you have to either get that victory royale in one of the 5 matches or place top 5 on the consistency leaderboard. Taco, any expectations for game number 1?
Look, my primary takeaway after Group 1 last week, Takata, is the fact that anything can happen. There were some huge upsets even in terms of teams that we didn't see actually find their way towards that Major 1 final. So it's going to be a tough day. We've got 5 lobbies to essentially dictate what's going to happen. And I think most importantly of all, height is certainly going to be a heavy topic of conversation.
I mean, it will be, but with Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstash in the lobby, you saw Levin talking about it. If they're able to get that Rift Island, if they're able to conserve the materials needed during those final zones, it's going to be a red alert for all the other trios in the lobby, especially if they're being contested. But the battle bus is heated up, engine started. Let's get right into game number 1.
Let's go, ça part. Ouais, 5 games. Le top 1 étoile et top 10 aussi.
To start us off here, Takata, but you know what I do have to make a call for is the fact that Queasy, whenever he goes back, because he probably will go back and rewatch this, and he's gonna hear Levin say, Game 5, hopefully, right? Like, you really do be your own in some of these circumstances.
Yeah, and speaking about, you know, the contested trios, based on the drop mob going into the second group of the day, Flooded Frogs was going to be contested here in a sense that Noms, Rizoy, and Gripey are kind of on the outskirts of it, but it looks like no very quick engagement off the bat.
Same cannot be said potentially for Night Shift for us as some of our teams start rolling in here for Strokey, hoping to get a glimpse some of those late flyers, but not going to get a chance just yet. Try and look for an early knock. Buildings and territory being established. Andalex just trying to get a little material he can, knows that he's not really set for a fight just yet.
Right, in trios, these early game engagements are all about claiming space. You want to claim the most loot, you want to claim the most advantageous position, whether it be an elevated building or just have the most rare or elemental chests. It's all about claiming that space, giving yourself that advantage to have better odds against the trio you're going up against. But when you lose a player so early on and you're put into a 2 versus 1, this just makes it that much more difficult to come out on top.
At the very best here, Nafrizi just hoping to try and communicate with the rest of his team, give an indication of what direction it's coming from, but Rakuzan from above gonna actually be able to go for the double revive here. Bit of relief, but Splik still trying to reapply the pressure, holding. Way too aggressive, jumps up, immediately gets sat down. A nice knock here for Lucia that might just really set the tone for how this fight's going to spill out.
Yeah, looks like pretty quick cleanup, but issue is if you have Karma running away, you got to make that decision. You know, early game is all about time management. Is it worth it to chase down a solo if you haven't finished looting your POI? And it looks like for this trio, it definitely is. I mean, you got the turtles here that do have rare chests on them. So that is a bit of extra loot that will be taken from them. But it looks like they might have just given up the pursuit.
Can't say that it's too surprising though that they would have those initial intentions. Another trio fight breaking out here though. This time, it's going to be Savari up against the likes of Clays, holding onto this tree for dear life. Where he manages to create just a little bit of space here. Water Sprite should be a nice measure too to get the shields back and plentiful for Ricky's trio, but Clay's just drawing so much attention from other opponents, and it looks like the third party is starting to rain through.
Yeah, I felt danger in my spine when I saw that drone shot of all the trios in the surrounding area. I was like, this is not a good position to take a fight in. Back over to Lost Lake though, already 3 eliminations on the board. This is a trio that is looking quite comfortable starting it off.
You also have to remember that this is Demus's trio. They were allegedly going to be towards that pumped power position, so for them to be at Lost Lake with a handful of eliminations there, Takata, might be tough scenes for Podesize's team. Have to check in whether or not they're even still floating around. Hanging on over in Seaport City, though, is the real talk of the town here. Queasy, Swizzy, Merstache. The desk highlighted it exceptionally well before everything kicked off, but we'll get back to that later because Nafrizi, the action is still going.
They're not done yet. They have 2 eliminations, 3 eliminations, sorry, but they want more as they pick up that 4th. Frizzy is actually the player who has the most reboot-style matches in the lobby at 83, but he's yet to secure that victory royale to qualify him to these major finals in any of those reboot-style matches he's played. So, starting off with 4 eliminations, Taco, maybe he can change history here.
Well, we know that they're definitely going to need the surge. Just based off of last week, teams were looking at around 2,000 necessary whenever those thresholds did come into play if they wanted to stay above it. So important eliminations gathered so far, and Nafizi having so much experience in this style of format, maybe this could be the one where he finally manages to see things in a different light. Only time will tell, but this is just the first lobby, and it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish for these kinds of scenes.
100%. And if we're looking at trios that aren't as contested, like we saw Queasy earlier, and now we have Ink, Nebs, and Shino here, you really got to focus on not only looting incredibly quickly, but finding that storm surge. Because if you're not battling anyone, you're not getting those early game pump shots, those early game tags right off your drop. It's all about your game plan, right? Your surge route. How can you find these opportunities to get that damage? Luckily enough, if you're able to get these Oni masks, allows you to not only move around much more efficiently, but also kind of split up in terms of the angles that you want to look for those tags, whether it be on a mountain or anywhere that you know some of your opponents are going to be rotating through.
I think having the uncontested Demon's Dojo, though, and opting to play, I think, a little bit more towards the dead side. So I think a lot of that northeast position of the map, you have some elevation that you can kind of play around with, especially when you imagine that there's still going to be some teams hanging around like the Magic Mosses and Pump
Ça live Clem ou pas? Ça live. On peut regarder. Je vais être en retour si m'arrive. Je regardais mais je vais
I really want to see a strong performance from these trios. Seeing it where
tu dis ça, tu veux les tags, les règles, les épées. Mais du coup, comment te qualifier aujourd'hui?
Put yourself one step closer to making it happen.
Never an easy situation to be in for any of these players.
Ah, si sur Fortnite, pour montrer l'action.
Nerves can definitely have a tendency to build up, especially when you don't want to find yourself in that last chance qualifier position.
Dommage, ils ont changé Batman qui est sur Polo. Peut-être une rediff, non? Ah bah tiens, nickel.
Got some action as well taking place on the outskirts of the map. Batman, easy peasy elimination on the side there, and one more time, that's just critical damage that they need for later on.
Matching outfit with the name, I like to see it. As Chap Noah and Yanis are choosing more of the kind of surge base route of getting surge, you need to be not only looking for tags constantly throughout this mid game, but you also need to be farming up, because how quickly you loot and start looking for tags isn't enough time to get those tag mats you need, especially some of the more scarce materials like metal. So if you have a trio, you can even set up where both the Fraugers kind of look for tags a bit more, and this is a bit what Levin was talking about, and the IGLs will be a bit more focused on making sure your team gets as close to cap mats as possible.
Also looks like that deep rotation from Pink's trio starting to pay off. A couple of tags.
C'est bon qui va se faire jouer à gros, faire attention là.
Separate angles being held as well. Slaxe even off in the distance, but
ouh, le bon laser, je sais pas c'est qui a mis ça, mais très bon laser.
Neb's going to be forced by momentarily. He's trying to provide the support coverage that he needs for the rest of his team. Pink and Shino just burning through those resources so quickly.
Gotta be careful. I mean, it is third zone. It's not going to be taking too strong yet, but the more time you spend in zone, the further away it can pull. It's okay to play dead side if you initially get a lot of damage, even some eliminations, but if you don't have any and you're just looking for those long range tags with an AR, it is a bit more risky. You might want to play even a bit closer to the congested side where these trios are rotating from, or like we can see here with Pink, Nebs, and Chino just staying in zone, but the clock's ticking. This is an experienced trio that knows exactly that.
Nebs just kind of starting to lead the way, but still wanted to make sure that he hold Slaxe as long as possible. Both of these teams kind of refusing to push here.
Non, non, remettez-la. Soleil, ça tombe. Remettez la pauvre, wesh. Remets pas la pauvre, wesh. Du côté de Soleil, ça tombe, wesh. Même du côté du Flock, ça tombe aussi. Clément sur le clutch. Oui, oui, oui. Ah, ça va être chaud. Bah, je sais pas comment il est tombé, j'ai pris une double spray parce que la plaie il n'a pas dû mettre beaucoup de dégâts. Ça, on n'a pas vu qu'il avait beaucoup de dégâts. Même si trop dur. On avait Chino qui est par hasard pour chauffer qui est Slowzay, c'est par du Slowzay, je sais pas comment il est tombé Slowzay. Pour moi, là, je produis sur Slowzay.
Split angle positions from how Nebs and Chino play that in the first place to get that elimination onto Sloxay, and it's only going to get worse when you have the numbers advantage. Nebs, you've been having a little bit of luxury here to be able to reform some of these used materials.
Le problème, c'est que sa game elle va être morte. Qu'il est rêve après la Storm.
Some issues I would expect for Pink's trio where they might get held a little bit on that next edge of zone, but at the same time, they can choose to just keep making deeper and deeper rotations now that they do have some confirmed challenge.
Yeah, for Clinton, has to wait to try and get his duo back in the game, but gonna be low on Surge, low on loot, low on mats. It's gonna be a difficult battle to come back on. As we take a look at Merstash, Queasy, and Swizzy at their drop spot here is Seaport. Now, though, there are more trios around. One full trio.
Hellfire's team kind of got Janice breathing down their backs in the distance. I would almost say that he might have even got a little bit of an audio cue for as to what's going down in Seaport City. A bit of commotion taking place here. Swizzy and Queasy, though, still trying to utilize these buildings, get that optimal high ground advantage. You can see the surge bases as well. But if there's any team that knows how to take these calculated rotations, calculated measures, it's always going to be
Go to IGL. Hopefully we can see a bit of that action in the background later during this match, but what you can also see happening in these set lobbies in the group stages, these players, especially the veterans, have studied who's dropping in this round, they tend to rotate, so in these situations they can, you know, afford staying in zone potentially to cut some of these trails off and some tags that way, but
Dommage qu'ils ont enlevé les failles, ils ont dû laisser les failles.
the Dojo's arena has appeared, Shogun Arena. Decides to kind of make the first move onto it.
And look, with the appearance of the Shogun's Arena, there's something that
Sacré première
Queasy having made a call that, you know, I'm going to be looking for that Shogun's Arena every single time. And obviously in this kind of circumstance, it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to make his way there from Seaport City, from where we saw him getting a little bit held up in that slight fight. But for the rest of these teams, Takata, Rip Island can be such a strong position, especially depending on how the zone pulls towards it. But we have seen a couple of circumstances where teams, you know, they've had issues with that Shogun X Medallion, for example, dropping off of the island depending on the timing sequence surrounding that.
Yeah, I mean, quick note to any players competing, make sure you don't finish eliminating the Shogun boss on the edge of the island as his medallion can fall right down in front of another player. You gotta make sure to eliminate him when he's on a nice secure position, center island ideally, as you can get that medallion, which is gonna make you invisible while you're sprinting. Incredibly useful for these late games, as it looks like they're gonna be trying to claim that right now.
Gotta imagine that it's difficult for another team to try and challenge from this point. If anything, they'll be waiting for Brownie's team to actually leave the Shogun's Arena territory. And yeah, teams are just, they're honestly just waiting for that Shogun X Medallion, using some of the resources as well, some of those slurp rails that are still on the island. Polo trekking his way up the mountain face. He's got to provide a different angle, but gets clipped from behind when he least expects it. Now alert, now he's gonna have to worry about his ceiling getting chopped out from under him.
Une katana, ça fait faire mal.
Gotta be careful as now the Typhoon Blade's going right.
Katana encore. Encore un coup de katana.
To look at this battle
Oh, le boulot katana. Ah, il va tomber là, il donne un couteau comme au katana. Qui va pouvoir réussir à raise et go. Ils vont se faire sauter dessus par les mecs de l'île, Brony. Ils prennent la storm.
Shogun's arena, looks like they actually need this surge damage. They are underneath that current threshold.
Ah, il était sur l'île, hein.
Getting ticked away, this fight might not be as in their favor as it initially appeared. Darkos has an opportunity to seriously turn this.
565 above, they have enough damage, but the issue is they've used so many mats on the most recent engagement. The good news is they don't really have to force a fight here. On the other end though, you can hear those storms are striking. Fuzzy needs to force a fight here. 239 below, already lost a teammate.
240 au-dessus de la storm.
On this elevation, you're gonna have a lot of eyes on you. This is incredibly risky.
If the rest of the lobby wasn't already looking to focus them, I'm sure Almay's name popping up in the elimination feed is bound to have set off some light bulbs here for Team Haikyuu. And sure enough, starting to see where this leftover loot is at from Almay's having been eliminated by those surge ticks. And it doesn't appear as though they're going to have to worry for much longer. Actually, they're just completely wiped essentially by the surge threshold itself.
Yeah, it's difficult. Brownie was a trio as well that has yet to make it to an FNCS finals, and you can see the struggle in these top tier lobbies, even if you're able to be the first one to show up to the arena. It's very difficult to continue that through the late game.
Arcade qui va sûrement tomber.
As Strap now has to be careful. The benefit of already having 1,000 damage, but having lost one of his teammates, as now the push continues.
And Kurama, things looking a little bit grim as well for this trio. It's down to just him and Werix. Trapped in Hellfire, they were able to get
Kurama, ils ont perdu Metz, je pense qu'ils vont back. Et QQ est mort de la storm.
They are just finding themselves so caught in the mix of all these trios. Craig and Azako, though, fortunately enough, will be able to secure this double revive onto Scusi, but they still have a long ways to go before they're inside the safety of the zone.
Yeah, this is 6th zone, which is the first kind of half in, half out, half the zone in the storm, half the zone out of the storm. This is a moment where you want to be kind of set on already getting a bit of damage, having enough loot, having enough mats, and being able to focus kind of on where these zones are going to be pulling. But the issue is for
il est tombé là, ils sont en duo clutch, ils vont peut-être faire jeu par Drey. Drey qui se fait crack, qui va peut-être tomber. 2v2 engagé. Peut-être ramener une katana. Peut faire mal de une katana. Janice qui va tomber. Noirelli qui prend le premier kill, peut-être la doublée. Ouh, la doublée sur Noirelli. Il va peut-être animer Janice, peut-être. Ah mais c'est qu'il y a une autre team à côté. Team de 3.
Caught all that attention, showing what it means to be an FNCS veteran. Noah now is left alone after back-to-back headshot pump shots. Can he continue his wrath as now the pressure is onto him? A 1 versus 3 inside of a storm. This is not a position you want to be in, but there's not much options for Noah here.
Just building for his life. Fortunately, he does have a lot of mats, but players like trying to reposition, finding themselves stuck inside of that wind tunnel instead.
Ça va être chaud.
O'Reilly, he's just getting dinged from every single direction. There is nowhere safe for this team to run. Finally cleaned up from the bottom of his own builds. Again, inevitable.
C'est le mur statistique, c'est sur l'île.
Actually surrounding the bottom of the Shogun's arena right now.
And look at this, Levin was talking about it. Even though they weren't the
Trop bien, ils peuvent
first
faire
trio
quelque chose sur
there,
cette
you
game.
have Swizzy, you have Merstash, you have Queasy, on the Rift Island, and not only that, Taco, they've been able to conserve their mats. Swizzy has max materials.
Il est
I'm
beaucoup
hoping
en jeu
Merstash
d'or.
and Quizzy are in a similar position, but this is a code red for the rest of the lobby right now. When you have this trio, 700 above surge, max loadout, max mats on an elevated position, already marking in the storm.
Ecomat, trop bien. 800 de storm.
If you give Queasy max materials, essentially, heading into that 8th zone position, Takada, I think we know how the rest of this story goes, but don't want to commit to any sort of jinx yet. Even the mighty have fallen before.
Les autres, parce que comment ça s'appelle, les autres, ça va pas être en dessous de la store, mettre. Ils ont pris trop cher par le bot. Ils ont pris un peu du temps à tuer. Mais beaucoup de store, mais ça fait la différence.
They've got every checkbox crossed off. I mean, they've got maps, they've got positioning, they've got loot, they've
Ils ont
got
pris la
damage.
storm, le mec en bas il a pu ranimer un mec, c'était solo au début, il a pu ranimer un mec, ranimer d'autres, et ils ont fait tirer à cause de ça. Peut-être Volco, c'est un solo en bas, peut-être faire quelque chose, prends la storm en plus 1. Je vous laisse prêt les gars, on va récupérer le kill. Je sais pas s'ils ont une kill. Ah, il a eu kill, c'est bon. Nice.
Try and TP up for Strokey, immediately went to shut that down, but that is a nice siphon material circumstance for Strokey's trio. Now, what can they do next with it? Because having dropped, forfeited a little bit of height, Strokey at least has that Void Oni, so might have a slightly easier time, but
il y a Cringe qui vient de tomber.
it's Queasy's team of all trios controlling that Shogun's arena.
La top 14, ça commence à gratter les points de top. Peut-être Quiz, ça prend l'avance pour le height. Pourquoi pas aller chercher un top 1 sur cette game et aller directement en finale.
Because they know how difficult of a rotate this is going to be for the remainder of the lobby, and all they have to do once they're up and above is look down and start shooting.
I did see sights though of Nathan, CZB, and Eclipse. They're going to be
Darko se sent trop bien lui. Solo, il a pu rallumer deux mecs.
Of Queasy's team all the way up on the peak of this mountainside, trying to break through Nathan, CZB, and Eclipse as well is going to pose even more issues for these teams. Just so much material that's going to be ate up on this journey towards that top of the mountain.
Zone is going to fortunately
Ouh, c'est tout, on dit ça tombe.
on the side playing Mountain Goats. It is going to pull back into the POI, so they're not going to have to fully go over
Batman
this mountain. A
qui a
little bit of
doublé.
a savior for all the trios down below, low in materials like Pink Nebs and Shino. It's going to give them another chance here, another shot at redemption, but they are going to need a refresh on this rotate.
Ideally, what they want is potentially
Ça se marque pas encore pour Twitch, pour le flow dans le direct, c'est tout. On va aller chercher des pointeurs à game là.
might have an easier time trying to seek out that refresh than some others. Maybe some rookies from Queasy's team that they might drop, but all the way down at the bottom of this mountain face already.
Ça va, remonte pas la montagne parce qu'elle aurait pu être dure. Hein. C'est-à-dire monter, tout remonter.
This is what Queasy does best. It's just monitoring the high ground, making sure that nobody else could possibly try and threaten this position.
I love what I just saw from Queasy. His trio has already pre-fired the Oni masks onto the Rift Island once again. As it's pulling right back to it, so they're able to maintain that elevated position in the clouds. Meanwhile, all these trios
La grosse balle de Flash Cookie. Quand le kill circule. On va le faire là, peut-être un doublé. Nice, plus trick. Encore un kill qui tombe.
Colb's team didn't stand much of a chance here, but what I want to keep an eye out for, Takada, is
Ils sont
teams that are
repartis
trying
sur
to
l'île. Ils sont trop bien.
It's going to be so difficult because they have to worry about those wind
On va
tunnels
avoir
potentially
encore
taking
tellement de
away
matchs sur
position
le
that
right.
they don't want to be off of those Void Oni masks. The Feezy, Alusha, holding on to this last charge of the water.
Là, ça va remonter la montagne.
And it's going to continue to buy them just a little bit more time, a little bit more HP, but getting up towards that secondary height
Ça va être
position.
dur pour monter là. Plein de mecs qui vont tomber. Hein.
always staying ahead, always staying on top. Still, look at the materials that Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstash have. Look at their loot, look at everything. It's gonna take a miracle for one of the trios down below to retake this high ground from them, as once again, a mountain is gonna be where the zone is pulling towards. All these players trying to elevate themselves while the pressure is being applied from above.
Verstroki, Volko, quite literally got trees even blocking their paths, but don't want to break them out just yet. Don't want to give away their specific
Remise de Matouche. C'est trop bien, ils vont une. Tellement bien lui.
Also, still managing to trek their way through the snow. It is an uphill battle, quite literally, for all of these teams.
Nebs, just 34 HP though, one shot away from getting knocked down. Good news is they've already made it up top of the hill. They're just gonna continue staying ahead. That's all what low ground is, claiming space, staying ahead of the zone, and they are doing exactly that.
Chino, Pink, hoping to still carry the torch here at this stage. Nebs as well, a couple eliminations to his name, but look at Queasy, just an absolute behemoth from above. Everyone just at the exclusive mercy of what Swizzy, Queasy, and Merstash decide to do here. But Pink, he's only going to turn things into his favor. Volko going to smell the right here just a bit. He's going to get a little bit of the siphon, but Chino, he's the only one left to keep the dream alive at this stage, and he goes down.
Lucia now 6 eliminations on the board, and Frizzy is going to be his duo that's up. It looks like it's a 3 versus 2. The Titans on high. Drop down now. They're not playing heel off. They're playing aggressive. They're closing it out. Swizzy, Queasy, and Merstash are gonna take home game 1 of Group 2.
Look, I get it. It would have been.
Oh bien, j'ai joué contre tellement de maths avec Sidoge.
What Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstash had planned for the day, but if you ask me, Takada, there was no other plan other than just playing a singular lobby to punch their way into the Major 1 finals. That was the most calculated Fortnite that you could possibly ask for. It was absolutely clinical from this team.
Are you surprised? Let me call it before these games even started. If you let Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstash on Rift Island in the endgame, max materials, max loot, it is not going to end up well for the rest of the lobby, and they showed exactly why they have the reputation they do. Levin, Mini Z, you got to break that down for me.
Mini, right here in my script, it says they win game 5, and you just had to go off and change the script and say they won game number 1. Guys, this was easily one of the freest wins I think I've ever seen in a Fortnite game. Not only did they claim Rift Island super early, but then zone favored them. It goes, like, almost every zone favored them. And then in that moment where, like, zone comes back, they're already prepped. They settled high ground, just looking down, like, okay, guys, going up a mountain, we're already here. This was so, like, this was easy breezy.
Jarko top 6.
I mean, that goes by entertainment, you know. I see one of them. Like, all these guys can win any game and just qualify, but it's like, you know, just give us a couple games of fun, you know.
Top 9 la DFR, Darkos. Ils sont bien montés parce que c'était pas très dur dans le game. Fait drop par pareil dans la fin de game. J'ai pris la storm et ça fait la différence. Top 10 on est digital.
Nobody else in the lobby can play how they're playing, and it's just like you said, the freest game they will play. I like to say, you know, like they showed, like, you know, some level of excellence, and they absolutely did, right? Their strat is sort of ironclad. Anybody looking at that height has no chance of taking it off of them. But yeah, it's just so easy. I can't wait to see these guys in grand finals or in the Major 1 finals, because there will be a couple other teams who maybe can challenge them. But here in this lobby, no one even comes close.
Yeah, already size up. I think the script was up.
Ouais les gars, c'est toi là, regardez, je suis en compagnie de mon pote MrBeast. Donc là, on avait quelque chose à vous dire tous les deux. C'est que franchement, la meilleure youtubeuse de tous les temps, en fait, c'est Choco. C'est pas MrBeast, c'est pas moi, c'est Choco. Donc voilà, allez suivre sa chaîne YouTube, elle est super cool. Voilà. Ciao.
T'as trop la race. C'est enfin une de mes vengeances. Non, après toutes les vidéos qu'on a fait avec toi, là, les avions, les trucs comme ça.
Je peux le mettre que sur Insta.
Ah bah non, c'est pas drôle.
En vrai, pour cet objet, je mets la note de 5 étoiles. Même si j'ai eu un gage, j'ai kiffé l'objet.
Franchement, moi perso, je mettrais la note de 6 étoiles parce qu'en plus de ça, j'ai gagné.
Toujours plus, c'est un truc de ouf.
Allez, prochain objet.
C'est parti.
Allez, choisis-lui là, ce jouet là.
Ça?
Ouais, ça.
Ok, c'est parti.
Qu'est-ce que c'est? On dirait pas la gourde du bras sur Fortnite?
Bonjour. C'est bon, j'ai toute ma vie.
Allez, on retire, faut couper par contre, faut un ciseau.
Toi, tu prends toujours les trucs compliqués avec plein d'étapes différentes. Hop.
Surtout que vu que c'est gros, ça m'a l'air d'être un big truc. Non mais par contre, MrBeast, il a géré. Il y a des jouets qui sont un peu moins bien et il y a aussi des jouets qui sont très très bien. Et j'espère que lui fait partie des jouets très cool.
Tu penses c'est quand qu'on te voit dans une vidéo de MrBeast?
MrBeast, j'attends ton invitation.
Yes, MrBeast, I'm waiting for your invitation. Je t'explique, c'est simple. Là, normalement, c'est beaucoup plus facile. Si j'ai bien compris, il faut prendre ça.
Oh, oh, oh.
Et là, normalement...
Arrête, c'est quoi ça? J'ai choisi un bête de trucs là par contre.
Mais ouais, par contre, ça me fait peur. Des liquides comme ça, c'est chimique là. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Plein de trucs liquides. Oh mon dieu, non par contre, moi je suis en bleu donc ça va. Ah.
Ça pue. Ok, là, faut le verser là. Oh, c'est tout bleu.
Ok.
Est-ce qu'il s'est passé un truc sur la... Oh, c'est devenu... Regarde comment c'est devenu.
Y'a rien.
Vas-y, regarde, toi, c'est comme ça.
Ah, c'est transparent. Ok, attends, je vais le mettre. Oui, mais attends.
Putain, mais c'est trop stylé.
Allez, je vais le mettre dedans aussi. Hop.
Waouh.
Oh. Ah, mais c'est trop satisfaisant par contre, j'aime beaucoup.
Ok, pour l'instant, ça commence très bien.
Première étape, fini. On poursuit.
Ensuite, ils disent il faut appuyer sur ça. Attends, push, appuie.
Oh, c'est en train de changer de couleur. Mais oui, ça change de couleur ensuite.
C'est incroyable.
Faut cliquer longtemps. Oh, faut cliquer longtemps, ton lag.
Vas-y, je clique,
Et là,
je spam là.
Et normalement, on peut l'ouvrir normalement. Je l'ai pas encore ouverte. Comment on
Il est où le savon chimique là j'ai envie de...
Ouais, où est-ce qu'il est? Il aurait bien pu nous aider. Vrai, on n'y arrive pas en fait, faudrait que le chimiste vienne. C'est là celui de tout à l'heure.
Marteau.
Ouais.
Il était là en fait. Marteau, aide-nous. On n'arrive pas à ouvrir.
Pour ouvrir?
Bah oui, on veut lui là.
Hop, tu prends là, tu dévisses.
Oh
non. What? Attends,
c'est grave stylé.
Tu veux m'ouvrir?
Lui là, le gros gris, tu dévisses.
Ouais.
Sors-le.
Ah non, c'est trop stylé. Oh, la tête par contre, c'est vraiment trop stylé.
Vous avez le même?
Par contre, MrBeast, il faudrait que tu crées d'autres jeux en dehors des figurines, parce que là, ça commence à être un petit peu.
Ouais, j'avoue, on les a sur toutes les versions, des petites, des grosses, des moyennes, des minuscules.
Mais il abuse, en plus, c'est les mêmes. Par contre, c'est beau, ok, mais ça y est, il abuse pas. Tu peux l'ouvrir, toi, le lag? Non, mais on mange pas ça.
Voilà.
Ouais, merci.
Bon, en vrai, moi, c'est pas ça que je préfère, ça, je m'en fous. Ce que j'ai kiffé, c'est ça, c'était trop stylé. Du coup, note 3 étoiles, parce que le jouet, il est pas ouf.
Perso, je mettrais pareil, je pense que je mettrais 3 étoiles. 3 étoiles pour ça. Il manque quelque chose, en fait. Mais les enfants, vous allez arrêter?
Non, mais en fait,
j'ai l'impression d'être à daronner, c'est les enfants. Arrêtez les gosses, là.
Non, mais j'ai de l'eau.
Vas-y, va-t'en, toi.
Allez, tous.
Tiens, reprends ça.
T'es sur la tête.
Donc, je te débarrasse.
Mon chouet, je t'aimais bien. Allez, moi je propose qu'on ouvre ça maintenant, c'est bon. On a trop attendu tout au long de la vidéo. Ça fait depuis le début que j'attends. Je veux qu'on ouvre ça.
Alors ça, Choco, c'est ce que j'attendais depuis le début de cette vidéo.
Oh, j'ai des bonbons.
Alors je t'explique, là-dedans, il y a plein de petites figurines à collectionner. Attends, regarde, c'est des petites figurines à collectionner comme ça. Il y en a plus de 500, mais nous, ce qui nous intéresse, c'est celle-là. Ça, c'est la figurine en chrome, elle est ultra rare. Dis-toi ce qu'il a, tu peux la revendre super cher.
Vraiment?
Bah oui, c'est MrBeast.
Ah ouais, attends.
Avec MrBeast, on parle que en millions d'euros.
Ok, bah vas-y, j'ouvre sans plus attendre.
Ok, attends,
on en ouvre combien?
Il y a des étapes, c'est comme depuis le début de cette vidéo. Faut mettre de l'eau, faut se...
Oh non, ça va être long. Moi, je voulais juste directement voir si j'avais. Waouh!
Et après,
ok, c'est bleu.
Ok, regarde, là, t'as une fiole, tu l'ouvres.
Je l'ouvre et ensuite.
Il me semble que tu dois mettre de l'eau.
Mais non, pas besoin, il est là.
Mais non, mets de l'eau, fais pas n'importe quoi.
Mais qu'est-ce que c'est à faire?
Écoute-moi, faut mettre de l'eau. Mets de l'eau.
Parce que ça Dans 4 minutes.
Referme.
Ah ouais, c'est remonté direct. Attends.
Et là, t'es prêt?
Vas-y, après, faut secouer.
Faut secouer.
Tac.
C'est en train de mousser.
Lag, je crois que j'ai trop secoué. Il y a de l'eau qui coule partout.
Solution de secours, le bac.
Vas-y, le bac.
On vide. T'es prête?
Attends. Oh.
3, 2, 1.
Ah! C'est tombé.
Regardez ce que j'ai eu.
Qu'est-ce que j'ai eu?
Dégueulasse.
Ah! Attends, j'en ai eu 2.
T'en as eu 2?
Bah oui, regarde.
Ah ouais, moi aussi.
J'en ai un petit cochon, on dirait.
J'ai eu le MrBeast. Regarde.
Et le deuxième, j'ai eu ça. Bon, sympa, hein.
Regardez, moi j'ai eu lui. Alors lui, il est horrible, on dirait une crotte de nez. Et j'ai eu surtout lui. Regardez, lui, c'est le Beast original. Si j'ai lui en version chrome, c'est une dinguerie.
Ah ouais? Mais on a le droit encore à ouvrir qu'un seul, là. Hein.
Allez, on en ouvre un dernier chacun. Et après, on va ouvrir tous les trucs sur ma vidéo.
Ah ouais?
Ouais, objectif le chrome. Attends, viens, ça se trouve, on va l'avoir là.
Vas-y.
Tiens, prends-en un.
Ah, objectif, le chrome.
On met un petit peu d'eau.
Ah.
Tac. Oh, celui-là, je le sens bien. Celui-là, je le sens très bien. Ça a l'air d'être une dinguerie, celui que j'ai. Attends.
Dites-moi que j'ai le chrome.
Ça a l'air d'être une dinguerie.
J'espère que j'ai le chrome, histoire que genre...
Oh, mais panique pas comme ça. En plus, je vois celui que t'as eu la crotte de nez.
C'est vachement drôle, t'as vraiment deux engages mentales, Antoine. Allez. Ah, oh non, mais what? Non, les gars, j'ai pas eu celui en chrome, je crois. Attendez. Le reveal. J'ai eu le monstre comme de tout à l'heure. Et what? J'ai eu une main. Ah non, et j'ai eu un crabe.
Bon, moi encore une fois, j'ai eu j'ai eu lui là, un peu tout moche. Et là, j'ai encore eu lui. Ça
Ah, pas sur moi. Bon. Ah, mais bouge, mais il y a 2 ans. Bon, j'espère en tout cas que vous avez kiffé la vidéo. Je propose qu'on passe à la chaîne de Twinlag maintenant. On va ouvrir tout le reste sur la chaîne Twinlag. Elle s'affiche à l'écran. Prenez soin de vous. C'était Choco et
Twinlag.
Bisous.
Les amis, ça dit quoi le chat? J'espère que vous allez bien. Ce soir, stream avec Timout.
Faut que j'aille chier, frère.
T'as l'air d'être heureux? Bah, non, mais le live il peut pas commencer comme ça, les frères. Déjà, pourquoi toi t'es dépité d'être?
Je vais aller pisser dans mon studio, comme Luchi.
Les gars, on est avec Timout, sûrement un des gamers les plus crasseux que je connaisse.
Exactement.
Justement, anecdote par rapport à ça.
Premier confinement, tu vois ça, c'est comme ma routine. À ce moment-là, pendant au moins 10 jours, j'ai fait ça. Je me levais à midi. À midi, je mangeais. À 13h, de 13h jusqu'à 20h, Fortnite. 20h, je mange. De 21h jusqu'à 3h du mat, 4h, Fortnite, et on recommence. Et là, c'est là où tu te dis, mais où est la douche? Et bah, il n'y a pas de douche, il y avait que des changements de calbar.
Ça va.
Déjà,
ça va.
Il y a au moins ça. Il y a Esteban aussi qui est là. Les gars, Esteban fait partie de la Michou Corp, donc ils mettent sur les tournages, etc. Il est là. Esteban, est-ce que toi, t'as une anecdote
Oui, mais j'étais vraiment petit, mais je vais vous la raconter parce qu'elle est extrêmement drôle. Vous connaissez mon amour pour Call of Duty. Je me foudroie les fesses sur ce jeu.
Ouais.
J'avais ma chambre et j'avais une genre d'armoire, mais t'ouvrais et limite je pouvais rentrer dedans, je pouvais faire ma vie dedans. Et c'est pas tellement je jouais pareil, je me lavais même plus, j'étais un gros dégueulasse. Et bah je pissais dans mon armoire, frère.
Ce que j'allais dire en plus, j'allais dire sans penser il a posé une litière dans son armoire.
Les gars, le chat, on va se faire du Pokémon Pocket, sachant que aujourd'hui...
Non, mais ça devrait être bon. Ah, ça peut commencer.
Yeah, I mean, what do we expect right now that we've got Queasy out? Does that mean we're gonna look to contest this drop spot? Are we looking for height, Levin? What are we doing here?
I mean, I think there will be a couple of, contestant teams in the lobby that might sort of look at it now and go, yeah, maybe we should land Seaport. It'd be funny if it ends up being contested because there's a couple different teams that think that way, right? Height for the rest of the lobby does get easier, for sure, because now Queasy's not there. I expect it to be sort of how it was in Group 1. Group 1, it was so chaotic. We had a bunch of different teams looking up for it, trying to take it. Game 1, nobody bothered. 1, because of the zones, 2, because of Queasy. So height will be a lot more interesting for the next 4 games.
Okay, let's see what happens. Game number 2 is upon us. So casters, over to you.
Look, guys, height might get a little bit easier to play, but the pressure is going to remain as high as ever here at Takata. We've already seen a masterclass essentially coming out of Queasy, Swizzy, and Murstache for lobby number 1. And what's the GOAT quote after all? Get height, don't die. That's Queasy all day long.
Get height, stay up. But look, we mentioned it briefly as well just now. Seaport is now uncontested, and we have duos contesting each other right south of Seaport in the Blossom split. We have trios contesting each other at boxcars right north of Seaport. So, now, even while they're dropping into their original drop spot, they might be able to see, like, oh, okay, Seaport's free. Let's just drop over there. So, only time will tell. Will they decide to make that choice? Or will more trios make that choice and cause a new contestation? Game 2 starts now.
Something else that's been made very clear, though, Takata, with the conclusion of that first lobby is the fact that Shogun's Arena has just become that much more available. We did see the likes of Brownie's trio try to maintain it, but their problem was they encountered surge difficulties. They didn't have the surge they actually needed. They were forced apart from the island. So at this stage, a lot of it isn't exclusively just going to come down to autopiloting, trying to take those height positions, because these teams understand they still need to make sure that they have the surge necessary to do those power plays.
100%, and I'm thinking now in the
Peut-être Akira se conteste.
where's Andalex at?
Sur la sneak de séduit. Peut-être faire mal, faut faire attention. On va voir, on est bien, on a 50 de vie. Pistolet pompe, peut-être faire quelque chose du côté d'Akira.
And look, maybe being contested here yet again isn't the worst case scenario for proto-sized team.
La
Just
Bello qui vient
because
prendre
they're gonna
un
need
doublé.
practice if they
Double kill.
decide to commit to Lost Lake Takata. They know what awaits them if in Group 3 we see success
Mon bac à
from
Kiran.
Seti and Kemi and
Dommage,
Shari.
il y avait qu'un seul gars en bas, c'est dommage.
A little bit more, I should say.
Cherche.
It can always be beneficial in the long term.
Oh, and it looks like not a single trio decided to drop at Seaport City. What are the odds, Tog? I guess they just want to stick to their, you know, routes, their loot path, everything they've studied. They don't want to kind of mix it up, even if it's that much.
Non, j'espère quand même ils vont pas mourir encore. Ils se retrouvent en 1v2, ils vont raise.
Starkist, this trio, I believe, got second place in the last match, so they're already doing a great job in terms of keeping themselves up high on the leaderboard. I didn't want to jinx it there, got a little scared
Retour le big
when I
pour
saw
eux.
it not come through.
Yo, Thomas, comme
They
ça,
did make it happen.
This is some really nice early surge for Lucia's team.
2-0
for sure. And not
spawn.
only that, but knowing that, well, I can't say that they necessarily know, but they might have
Peut-être
been able to scope
Norris
out the
pour
fact that
contest.
teams weren't headed towards Seaport City. So that also does introduce the possibility that teams might look to rotate through Seaport City just for fishing purposes, just for additional loot purposes. And when you have successful early fights, like what we just saw from the Freezy, it makes it a little bit easier to prioritize having some slightly slower rotations.
Yeah, the thing is, normally you don't know if anybody's going to drop at that POI that becomes uncontested, but if you're one of the contested trios that are landing right beside it, like I was mentioning at Blossom Split or at Boxcars, I think depending on the bus path, you can see if a trio is flying into Seaport or not. So it's very surprising to me that the ones that are already contested didn't kind of see that and make the decision to drop there. But maybe another trio, like you said, will walk through Seaport.
C'est Merstat qui ont fait top 1 et les deuxièmes ils sont qualifiés directement en finale. Les deuxièmes c'est Nerfi, Lucia et Starkus, c'est ceux qui ont gagné spawn.
Shattered Span, right? If you're the team at Shattered Span, Putrix, maybe use one of those launch pads to head into Seaport City. They'd also be one of those teams I think that has an easier time at scoping out the fact that there's nobody there, and Shattered Span has definitely kind of been going through the ringer, especially since the loss of, you know, some key resources like the slurp truck, and it might make it a lot easier for them to not have to play from such a fringe position on the map.
Apollo qui vient de tomber.
I think at a slight disadvantage some of these other teams in comparison to what they can gather from that POI.
Peut-être du côté des FR, j'espère que ça va passer. Hein.
And Chino got, I believe, 3rd place last match. A lot of these trios have already kind of set themselves up 4th place for a good position on the leaderboard. So at this point,
enfin, des FR, il y a qu'une team de FR, c'est top 9, je crois, c'est top 9.
You might have to change your playstyle whether you want consistency. But up at the polar top, we have Polar getting eliminated.
Ouais, top 9 c'était Aku, Sky et c'est Darko. C'est le top 10 hein, qui passe. 36 points actuellement. Qui vont faire top 1 pour se qualifier directement en finale. Là ça joue en box fight là. Côté de Soleil, Floki, Clément. Il a eu beaucoup de dégâts, hein, peuvent faire quelque chose.
Under heavy fire currently. Clement, Soxe, trying to see if they can get an approach. Slightly split positions here. Splashes ringing out, but it's actually going to be Floki for a moment here, going for that right side peek. Instead, trying to just make sure they can take this wall. Unity, they're going to charge right through. Could have been some serious problems there for Floki and not been able to back off for a moment, but Soxe.
Moi je t'avoue, moi je suis pas coach. Hein. Je suis dans une team, hein. Bah, je pourrais pas t'aider, désolé frérot. Donc là tu te renseignes, c'est dans le Discord, il vient sur des coachs, même ils recrutent, tu peux rentrer dans une team, tu te renseignes dans le Discord. Vraiment si tu veux perdre sur Fortnite, c'est pas mieux qu'un coach vraiment.
The sneaky play is going to come through. They're going to crouch through the builds and just hopefully find an opportunity to maybe 3-2-1 triple shotgun a player here.
It's Floki's team that is the most unaware
of just how threatened their current position is, because they're the ones Première game c'est mal passé là, deuxième game c'est de faire quelque chose.
the train station here at Brutal Boxcars, and with that menacing sneak up, you almost have to expect a time commitment even from Marvik's trio, right? If you spend so long not actually being directly involved with the fight, you're gonna have to get that surge one way or another. And they might have missed their opportunity at least onto Clement's team.
I'm not sure if they knew there was a third party there, which would be pretty unlikely. I mean, they crouched the whole way. I think it was just good timing. They decided this is
Les mythiques qui pu faire tellement mal sur le dernier. Oh, ils vont attraper le dernier.
They can actually still get an opportunity here. They take the first shotgun shot, but Kifo is going to be the only one that took the shot.
Allez, faut le tuer, nice. C'est sur Ricky.
At least pick up one, and they do exactly that onto Ricky. A quick knock, bit of loot for the trio, but will they continue forwards?
Like, that was so necessary because that was about to be
Ils vont attraper les autres.
Fortunately, I do think Marvik, that was a nice recovery. They were able to actually get that initial elimination onto Ricky. 2 versus 3 though, they want to close in on the rest. Mari was actually the one that had been split initially, but now this trio
aurait gagné le fight. Hein. L'autre il va back.
To keep things going. That's going to be the secondary confirmation here for Kifo, and that is a promising look, as now it's only a singular member left over from Spari's team to try and hold things tight. Whether or not they can actually even make a play for those reboot cards is another question, because right now it's all about getting out of dodge.
Yeah, I believe that singular player too is kind of sandwiched now between 2 separate trios, so it's going to be a difficult one.
Ils sont top 8 quand ça passe. C'est de rester constant dans leur game.
I mean, they played together for all 3 majors last year, even qualifying for globals in Major 3. So seeing them once again now in trios alongside Eclipse, they've got that synergy, they've got that chemistry, and hopefully it's going to show in these matches.
We also saw them as one of the teams that were taking early notice of that height position, right? They were just a little bit slower to try and beat out Queasy, Moustache, and Swizzy for that mountain play, Takata, but they are clearly a team that has a pretty firm understanding of how to actually maneuver themselves into those priority positions, and I'm excited to see how the rest of these lobbies continue to unfold for that team, especially again given the fact Nathan, he's out here trying to help represent Controller Nation. Podesai and a squeeze though, a little bit of problems here. Might have been caught up while trying to go for a fishing play.
Really want to see that trio qualify, representing Gentle Mates. Just thinking of seeing them at the Global Championship in France, being on a French organization, all the fans cheering them on. We'll see if they are able to do it in this second group as we look back at Nathan Eclipse and CZB. A reminder of kind of how the meta has been played out this season. It's a lot of fishing ever since the water boon was taken out of competitive. Now it's all about fishing, getting those shield fish. You don't have to fish in a fishing hole. It could be any open body of water, and you can get quite a lot of shield fishes that you can then use to recuperate that shield after looking for tags in this mid game.
9 points.
So that's why you see a lot of these players with fishing routes, but as we get closer and closer to that 4th zone, where Rift Island will once again appear. We talked about it earlier, Taco. Queasy, Swizzy, and Moustache didn't even take it right off the bat. There was multiple trios that kind of fought for it, and in the end, they were just the last ones there, using it more of kind of like a rotation tool versus, you know, getting the loot from the Shogun boss and getting anything else, even position for tags early on.
Ça fait combien de temps que je fais avec Sharp? Ça fait faire 2-3 semaines. 2 semaines, je crois, à peu près. Et que les jeux, c'est depuis la saison. On va voir ce que ça va donner.
Even looking back at the trio that we were just on, Chat, Noah Riley, Yanis, we saw some struggles. Shogun's Arena could maybe be a new introduction to their game plan, just because of the fact that if you don't have much search, that top overview can give you a lot of chances, I think, a lot more opportunity to try and make up the difference there. Still got to get flowers where they're due. Noah Riley did have some pretty crazy elims in that last lobby, so he's definitely primed and ready to go along with the rest of his team.
Oh yeah, what you love to see from these players that have been competing for as long as I can remember in Fortnite competitive. Scrap, Skrill, Hellfire now very elevated here. They don't have a single elimination, but they do have a good position to kind of look for those tags. Issue is I don't see too many trios rotating through, as Hellfire now is going to choose to maybe go to a different position. That's the benefit of kind of the mobility in this season with the Oni masks, the Typhoon Blades. You can afford to kind of split up a bit more from your trio.
This is a lot more risky though for Hellfire to keep on playing the solo position inside of the bush. I'm sure he's got his teammates nearby, but he doesn't have the luxury of being able to just immediately teleport away from danger. If he gets spotted out, it's gonna have to be a quick pickup factor for the rest of his team to help him out there. A lot of our trios just encountering their own fair share of struggles though. Batman and for Strokey, they're hoping that they'll be able to make a reboot play here now for Volko. Even if the early doesn't necessarily pan out in your favor, still have a chance to be able to get that reboot through. It will be tough though, just there's so much surge now that they're going to be behind the curve on.
Yeah, but if we look at A2, Echo and Repairs, this is a trio that has yet to make it to an FNCS finals, but when they get a Shogun Arena spawn like that, giving themselves that elevated position, this could be just what they need. 3 points on the board as well, which means in terms of consistency, it's only been one game, but not looking too hot yet. As time goes on and we get closer to those final matches, the teams at the lower half of the leaderboard are going to be playing a bit more aggressive towards that high ground for that win condition.
So far, so good as well for Echo's team. Doesn't appear as if anybody is going to make a surprise appearance just yet. Once a team has already kind of staked themselves out on top of Shogun's Arena, I don't think that it's very common for us to see teams look to directly challenge. Maybe if they can get a nice beat from below, or if they feel like they're going to be able to take a more advantageous shot, but I think that that's going to fizzle out for the time being. It's just going to be Echo's team claiming that Shogun X Medallion. Magic Mosses, though, right on the outskirts of it. Nebs, Pink, trying to replicate some of that Lobby 1 success, but that was kind of disastrous for Nebs. Punished for that peak just now.
Yeah, be careful when you got a full trio in the bush looking at you. It's a risky take.
T'as pas vu le message que je t'ai envoyé?
Now look at that. A triple spray attempt onto Clement Floki. Being a bit of a nuisance now.
Qui est dans le bush? Massiac, Pika et d'autres. Ils vont battre.
Both these trios positions though that are bound to be taking notice of the box fight that's currently engaging, and sure enough they're all forced to shift their direction towards some of those teams that were rotating just a little bit sooner than them. They don't want to find themselves getting out. They want to make sure that those teams are going to be at least a little bit hit, a little bit prioritized with trying to recover their own shield so they won't get chances to actually keep looking for tags. Floki or Pink's trios.
Right. What I like about trios versus duos is
des sacrés artistes cette saison, des beaux jeux à Canada aussi ça joue.
Kind of higher chances for you to actually get those tags, even if it's against the trio that's, you know, boxed up in the base or wherever they may be. So if you're really able to kind of have that synergy with your trio, make sure communication's unlocked, then you can kind of create those opportunities for yourself. As we look at a replay.
Ooh.
Non, pas du tout.
You saw it just for a moment
Quand
there.
j'attendais le but, elle a dit maman, je au parc.
Before that fight initially broke out there, Brownie's trio clearly still encountering a decent bit of struggle in terms of maintaining a nice surge threshold here.
Mais après, je crois que c'est Dave qui a donné un
set lobby type of performances to kind of everybody knows just how much more difficult acquiring surge actually becomes. Everybody's head kind of on a swivel here now.
Effectivement, c'est 122 au-dessus de la Storm. Qui sont des FR. Hein.
124 below as a duo, and it's one more time. Slase, Clement, Floki, the same trio. Kind of gave them a slight hiccup in the first leg. Engaging with them yet again.
Deja vu back in the storm.
Est-ce qu'il va jouer de fight sur supplément?
It's going to continue on forwards here, even though it is a 3 versus 2. They're still confident to at least get a bit of damage. Towards the zone as they continue to apply pressure, but if
Il est mort, ils font un 2v3, je devrais win normalement.
to do the same and either get in or create an opening.
Also appeared like
Ah, ce 200, il faudrait vraiment que tu me sautes dessus, hein, Netflix, sinon. 200 en dessous de la storm, ça va faire mal. Il était en pro les différents. Il devrait win, non. On patrouille là du côté de Clément, là, ils vont prendre la storm. Non, Sosei, non. Nice.
France hold strong currently. Floki, Clement, and Slase are going to fully wipe Pink's trio, and that is definitely going to be a bit of a thorn in the side there.
I wonder how scared they were for Surge. There was 75 players up. It's 74.
Yeah, attends, il vient de tomber, faut faire attention.
To no longer be active. Just one player needed to get eliminated, but Storm Surge did get active. They went all in, and it did not go in Pink or Chino's favor. Hopefully it will be a little bit brighter.
Doesn't even look like it was a long-lived success there either. That elimination onto the Strokey. Particle, Kider, and
24 encore la storm qui va faire mal. Hein.
Wow. I'm liking how this trio has been performing, actually. They got into the late game. I believe they were one of maybe even top 5 in game 1. I mean, in group 1, we had a Spanish trio take home the VR in the first match, and now they're looking quite stacked enough, I'd say, to have another solid performance in this late game. So in terms of consistency, they definitely have put themselves in a spot to do well.
Ouh, Janik qui vient de prendre cher, 10 HP.
Trying to build up as high as possible, hoping that he's going to have the likes of chat to come through, help save him. But Abdallah not willing to give up that chase anytime soon. Zako as well from afar in the secondary surge base. Chap just trying to apply pressure where he can, but these teams are getting stuck inside of the same perimeter.
Yeah, gotta be careful. Chap went full protection there. Placing hard mats, covering his team, making sure they have a bit of time to recuperate that shield that they lost, but they're gonna end up using a water sprite here to get Yanis back in action, as now the issue is they're only 86 above Surge, and the clock is ticking, the numbers are going down, as Frizzy is one of the culprits here doing more damage to his opponents.
Hellfire and Skrill just doing their best to hold the walls so far, but Rakuzan
Ou Azad qui est mort, prenez la storm en plus. Vas-y, que Delphire ça prend la storm, tout de la storm. On peut mettre des dégâts dessus là. Dommage. Il est sur le train, attention, il est défendu. 75 HP, il prend la storm. Un kit, mais je trouve que ça va pas être suffisant. Ça continue en dessous, il faut toucher.
Really find a miracle here in terms of damage, just 58 below. They have no option to tank it or wait it out, but still so many players up. All they have are medkits, no shields, so it's pure aggression.
C'était remonté au-dessus.
Shots needed to connect here.
Une petite balle.
Chance to look back. Alex and Sato gonna be the ones that ultimately find that elimination. Skrill still just trying to barely escape. It at least gave him enough damage.
Bon, 10 je crois qu'il est tombé. C'est Saito qui est tombé, mais Angela qui est tombé aussi.
And Akira also a little bit trapped on a slightly more
On est par Darkos, hein.
resource threshold for Kata, so they've got more time than most to actually make their next play. Chop out instead. Taking out the floor from Scout.
Je peux défaire, nice, des points ça prend un kill. Nice, ça récupère le doublé. Pour reculer, tranquille.
Issue is now the pressure's on them. The shots continuing to rain on in. Builds being broken. You have to be careful here to not run into the opposing trio's box or into the opposing trio's wall as Akira's forced to just completely leave his teammate, but the regroup is going to come in. That was an incredibly lost X squeeze in the process.
And it's not over just yet.
Ah, il y a Poda qui est tombé. C'est une petite balle. Peut-être aller raise Sweetie, hein. Nice, c'est une bonne balle.
Look for a rotation, but the full split. Now Akira might have an opportunity here, but his squeeze has been knocked. He's hoping to just get this revive off, but
On va pas descendre Poda. Tu vas directement aller raise Sweetie.
Do they know? The issue is here, 30 seconds left till zone starts closing. You gotta start looking around for rotates. When you're a duo, I mean, you have the Oni mask. You don't want to use that Oni mask so down in the dirt. You want to have a bit of an opening, stay a little bit elevated so you don't have builds blocking you. So they're gonna have to find a way to escape out of that kind of cluster of builds they got stuck in to look for that rotate. But Nefrizi, Lucia, and Starkus now, 105 points, continuing their way up that leaderboard.
It seemed like Gripe's team, though, was actually the trio looking to potentially try and take height. By this stage, they already had a really established trio in that last lobby. And Swizzy for height, and sure enough, Gripe, Noms, and they're up above the rest. Now it's going to come down to exclusively how well can they manage this high ground position. Chap, Janice, Noah Riley continuing to try and teleport their way up over the hill. They just want to get out of the Hornet's nest building inside of those mid-ground layers.
Did a great job doing so, but now
Il y a Ripe qui va se faire taper dessus, il a un HP.
On the backside of zone, you want to get ahead and look for them ahead so you don't get stuck behind and staggered as now the high ground retake is going to come through.
Donc ce qui remonte pour regarder ce height.
Are still doing a good job of holding on to it. They're not in zone yet, but they have claimed the position.
Noms as well, trying to see if he can get a piece out of the Gamers team as they look to look forward. It's just about who's going to be able to actually control this front side, though, and Rezoy just backing up a bit, but you can tell the builds, they're running relatively low. For a team that wants to try and maintain height, they're going to need a refresh sooner rather than later.
Meanwhile on low, you have Lucia, Nefrisi, Starkus continuing to apply pressure on teams trying to rotate in. They got staggered, they rotated in late, and that is going to lead to their demise as now Starkus gets up to 4 eliminations. This trio is looking incredibly strong, but might have been a poor decision to take that backside of zone.
Récupère un kill, Janice qui va tomber. Sozek qui récupère un kill sur Janice.
Rakuzen just forced to blindly teleport forward, doesn't really even have a chance to gauge where these next shots are.
T'entends pas des FR, hein. Il y a encore Akira, Squeezie, Clément, Sozek. Akira qui vient de tomber. Squeezie en solo clutch. Il y a Katata. Floki qui récupère un kill.
Yeah, when you're playing as a solo, it can be the right play to kind of ride the back of Storm because you don't have that trio to support you up ahead. But unfortunately, another solo is going to pick him off as Darkos. 7 eliminations, looks to make it 8. Can he reach double digits in this second match of the day? As now we have to find his way back in zone. Storm is taking 10 per second, unable to find his way in.
Clément qui récupère un kill pour montrer les FR. Chape qui tombe. Sur Grippé sur ce height. Clément qui a un HP qui va tomber. Le QC qui va tomber sur les en solo clutch. Rama qui tombe. Sozek qui est tombé.
excellent job of defending it so far.
Titans of the Skies are not done yet. They are building in wood though, so most likely they're running low on those hard materials. Lucha, Nefrizzi looking to take down low ground, but another trio have the same idea at the same time, and now it's caused commotion. Storicus is left alone, but he hits that quick pump shot, bumps himself up to 6 eliminations, and now another 1 versus 1 is right ahead of him. Knocks on the door, opens up. Find a shot yet though, but he connects that 7. Can he make it 8? Just 26 HP left.
The problem for Raguzen is he doesn't even get a chance to
Il y avait 2. Non, 3v1 ou bah le top 1 de bot hein.
And the final blow comes through. Gripe's team is going to be in our Major 1 finals.
Once again showing that height dominance, that win condition. If you're able to get up above in the clouds, if you have enough materials, all you gotta do is keep applying that pressure and close it out by the books, and that is exactly what they ended up doing.
And considering that they were kind of flirting with disaster for a second there, Takada, but regardless of whether it was, you know, as pretty as you would hope for, or a little bit ugly towards the end of it, what matters is the fact that they maintained that high position. They made sure to spray down. Nobody from secondary high or low ground could look to overtake, especially not in those low ground layers. We saw so many players that were just left in shambles by then.
Yeah, that's the issue. You kind of fall down the ladder right as you're getting closer to that low ground. You run out of materials, you run out of shields, you keep going down and down until you have that fully stacked trio on the high ground ready to close it out. So much action went on, and we have to go.
Je sais, il a 19k, mais je sais pas, Reason, toujours ce qu'il fait après. 19k riche. Top 10 à 66 points. Qui a remonté, à coup ils sont montés top 5. Le chat top 3. Mez, Kurama top 9. Faut quitter mon poste top 10, hein. Ça remonte. Hein. Qu'est-ce qu'il fait Reason? Chapeau de Reason? Chapeau, c'est quoi Reason? C'est pas 1000 personnes.
Du ouverture Pokémon Pocket, les amis, vous avez peut-être vu, il y a la nouvelle collection qui est sortie. J'ai fait une ouverture sur ma chaîne YouTube, j'ai déjà ouvert 100 € sur la nouvelle collection, un petit peu plus même. On a eu déjà le cas immersif, pas le cas immersif. On a eu des 2 étoiles, je vais vous les montrer, je vais vous montrer un peu la collection qu'on a. Mais pas d'arc-en-ciel, pas de gold, donc on a encore des trucs à aller chercher. Et surtout, j'ai toujours pas eu un god pack dans ma carrière d'ouvreur Pokémon Pocket et d'ouvreur Pokémon tout court. Parce que même dans la vraie vie maintenant il y a des god packs. J'ai pas de god pack, j'en ai jamais eu. Donc les gars, on va essayer d'aller chercher ça. On va mettre 100 € de booster sur mon téléphone. Les gars, vous êtes prêts ou pas?
Allez, ça part, loulou.
Allez, ça part, mon loulou. Allez, les gars, sachez que je suis surexcité. Depuis que la collection est sortie, j'ai fait l'ouverture. J'ai fait mon ouverture, j'étais en mode j'ai pas eu de gold, j'ai pas eu de god pack. J'ai envie de réouvrir. Je suis accro, oui.
Voilà, un addict.
Déjà, attends, je vais regarder un peu ma pioche miracle s'il y a des trucs pas mal là. Oh lolo. Mais attends, mais
t'as que de la chance.
Mais ma pioche miracle, de la chance. Avant de faire quoi que ce soit, on va prendre la pioche miracle pour essayer d'avoir coup de langue X. Je vous montre quand même ce qu'on avait chopé la dernière fois. Donc il nous manque 10 communes. Je crois il manque Darkrai X, Magie Rêve X. Enfin il manque pas mal de communes en vrai. Après j'ai eu pas mal de rares, hein. Mine de rien, mais ouais, en vrai, bien, hein. En termes de rares et tout, j'ai été régalé. Et surtout, ce qui nous intéresse, les 2 étoiles, j'ai eu 2 fois Yann Mega en X.
Les cartes comme ça, elles sont magnifiques.
Ouais, les cartes 2 étoiles, elles sont incroyables. Les gars, on va essayer de choper le coup de langue dans la pioche miracle. Vous pensez que je prends
en haut à gauche? En haut à
non,
gauche,
attends.
en haut à gauche, en haut
Moi
à
je
gauche.
dis, il est en bas à droite, je pense qu'il va rester en bas à droite.
Non. Non. Attends, je fais mes calculs. Elle est juste à côté, en bas à gauche.
En bas à gauche?
Non. Elle est en haut à gauche.
Allez,
écoutez le chat.
C'est quoi, je fais confiance à Clément?
J'ai fait les calculs.
En bas à gauche.
En bas à gauche. J'ai fait les calculs.
En haut à gauche. Si elle est en haut à gauche, je vous fais très mal.
Non, si elle est en bas à droite, les gars, j'aurais dû me faire confiance à moi. Elle est en bas à droite, elle a pas bougé.
C'est là qu'elle est en haut à droite.
J'aurais dû me faire confiance.
Tous fait niquer. Tu l'avais pas.
Oh, je l'avais pas?
là. Hein.
Putain, je suis mort, c'est une commune que j'ai. Mais ouais, mais coup de langue 2 étoiles.
Tu l'as déjà.
Ah! Je vous avais dit quoi?
T'avais dit en haut à gauche.
Frérot, je suis trop fort dans les tirs miracle.
On peut peut-être avoir Sbire de la Team Galaxy en 2 étoiles, même si je l'ai déjà.
Là, je fais plus de calcul.
Les gars, ça commence mal, j'aurais pas dû écouter Timout.
Là, elle reste en bas à droite.
Là, tu dis, elle reste au même endroit.
Oui.
En haut milieu.
Bon, vous voulez venir?
Oui.
Bon, allez, c'est pas grave. Les choses sérieuses commencent, on va aller chercher le God Pack.
Allez, le sentiment, il va être pour le 0 booster.
Aucun sentiment. Les gars, il faut y croire quand même.
C'est parti, Shoniki, électrode. Et c'est fini.
C'est fini. Ok, premier booster à chier, les gars.
Non, marque à cran. Scorvol, Grayena.
Les gars, c'est pour l'instant c'est un peu à chier. Medjena, Scorvol, Orchid, Mystère, Arché. Non mais c'est quoi ça? 3 boosters, y'a rien du tout.
Faut être calme.
Non.
Coatox,
C'est au 5ème booster.
Medjena, Motisma, lavage.
J'en peux plus de Motisma.
Medjena et la dernière.
Cheniti.
Oh,
Shonolo.
tu l'avais pas en plus, ça
Je ne l'avais pas et c'est le premier hit. Une holographique au bout de 6 boosters.
Mais en vrai, il est chaud lui.
Mais mec.
Oh là. Attends, c'est Nair.
Je fais un salto arrière,
Les gars, c'est une 2 étoiles.
C'est Nair.
Oh, c'est ma première. C'est ma première arc-en-ciel. J'en parlais les gars.
J'ai absolument rien.
Mais si, tu sautais partout.
Tu sautes partout, tu casses mon setup frère.
Vas-y, bah je me casse alors.
Bah ouais, barre-toi là. La pire 2 étoiles qui existe. J'ai eu la... Non, j'ai eu la pire arc-en-ciel. Parce que les arc-en-ciel elles sont toutes magnifiques. La carte est belle, mais c'est pas Shirizu quoi. Putain, bah heureusement qu'il y a eu ce hit parce que sinon les 10 boosters ils étaient bien nuls.
C'était vraiment nul à chier.
Normalement là, j'ai mis le son sur les enceintes. Faut qu'on écoute s'il y a du bruit.
T'as eu un bruit, je crois.
C'était un peu fort. On s'est fait rapaler par les boosters. Il y a eu qu'un bruit, les gars.
C'est vraiment au tout début. Hein.
Putain, Régigigas en holo. C'est pas mal, mais je l'avais déjà, les gars. Faut qu'on aille chercher les nouvelles X ou les nouvelles Holo pour avoir le full set.
C'est parti.
C'est ça le bruit.
Je l'avais.
C'est pas la dernière.
C'est ça le bruit.
Je l'avais. Si, c'est la dernière. C'était ça le bruit?
Ouais.
Non.
Si, bah si, en fait c'était au tout début, donc c'est soit sur le premier ou le deuxième. Et toujours rien.
Ok.
Oh là là, toujours
ok.
Rien.
Allez.
Un hologramme.
Oh, toujours rien.
Oh. Et encore une holo. Encore rien.
Toujours rien. Et le deuxième.
Toujours rien.
Let's go.
Et le 10e.
Oh,
je l'avais déjà encore.
Oh, la dernière carte.
La dernière, il y a eu bruit et lumière, je crois.
Ouais.
Ok.
Oh, ça commence.
Et je l'avais encore. Oh, il y a plein de 1 étoile que j'ai pas qui sont magnifiques. J'ai toutes celles que j'ai déjà.
Ouais, c'est là, t'as une vieille AR.
Ah, mais moi, je le sens gros comme une
Non,
patate.
mais les gars, vous pensez, imaginez 10 boosters, 0x, 0 AR, c'est possible ou pas?
Bah oui.
Je l'ai déjà fait.
J'ai déjà fait aussi.
Non, mais les gars, là, c'est cata.
Le dernier.
Ouais, ça va être sur le dernier booster que tu vas se jouer.
Oh oui.
Oh là
Ça
là,
change de couleur.
s'il te plaît. S'il te plaît. L'arc-en-ciel.
Allez.
La gold. Je suis content, je l'avais pas, il est beau.
Oui, c'est vrai que la carte est belle, ça me rappelle les années bisextiles.
Tu peux arrêter avec l'accent canadien, l'eau? Oh les bâtards. Allez, les boosters. Oh, mais mec, y'a aucune animation.
Là, il y a des gros hits.
Y'a rien.
Great.
Arrête. Timo, tu es en train de dégager des ondes négatives.
Je le sais que.
Les situations là, 10 plus égale plus. Allez.
Je le sens.
Oui,
Nous,
c'est
regarde.
farfuré.
Tiens-moi la main, nous on est plus.
Allez.
Nous on est
Allez.
plus.
Oui, c'est crame.
Regarde. Les gars, c'est maintenant.
Roselia, Mr. Boué, voici l'armure. Regarde, Togué.
On y croit toujours. Allez. On y croit.
Allez.
On y croit toujours.
Allez.
On y croit.
Allez.
Non. On y croit. Tu es en train de m'exploser les doigts.
C'est pas grave.
Quoi? Mais y'a rien eu.
Laisse Timout
Mais
ouvrir
mec,
le booster.
mais y'a rien eu.
Je t'avais dit qu'il y avait rien à
Tu vois, t'as renié Timout. Laisse-le ouvrir du booster. Que des hits. Que des hits.
À la fin.
Sur le dernier, toujours.
Toujours le dernier. Il faut dire plus, faut faire... Et voilà. Oh, je l'avais pas, tu vois.
J'avais dit quoi?
J'avais dit quoi?
Oh
mec, c'est une des
celle-là,
plus
je
belles
l'avais
AR.
pas. Ouais,
C'est
je
une
suis
des plus
d'accord.
belles AR.
Je suis d'accord.
Mais voilà.
Ok. Les gars, on va chercher des cartes que j'avais pas. C'est pas mal.
C'était pas mal non plus.
En vrai, c'est cool.
Il y avait pas rien.
J'ai kiffé.
Mais moi, je veux des hits. On s'en souvient. Allez, Esteban. Non mais c'est Montréal. Enfin, je sais pas.
Ok, on va repartir en français. Et tour vol.
Il y a quelque chose.
Motisme à la base.
Là.
Oh, tu l'avais vu. En plus, Karchakrot, c'est une des plus belles AR.
Tu l'avais pas.
Moi, je l'aime trop. Les gars, cette carte, je l'aime trop parce que le Karchakrot, il s'enroule comme Yuki quand elle va se coucher.
Oui, c'est vrai.
Je vous jure que Yuki, quand elle dort, elle s'enroule comme ça et elle met la tête derrière sa queue.
Shinichi. Et
Oh, et je crois que je l'avais pas.
Braz.
Ah si, je l'avais.
Motismaton.
Motismaton,
Petite
on n'en peut
tondeuse.
plus. Je crois que c'est la carte.
Oh, je l'avais pas. Tu l'avais pas. Grégory. Orchide. Togepi. Bétru.
Oh, et celle-là, je l'avais pas.
Ça, c'est beau.
Celle-là, je l'avais pas. Ça vient dans le Pokédex.
J'ai des nouvelles cartes. Le dernier booster. Et les
Pour
bruits.
l'instant, c'est toi qui le dis.
Les bruits, ils étaient dans lesquels?
Je crois les deux, ils sont passés.
Ah ouais?
Ouais.
Bah, Papy Jaco, Capuma, Rose Red, Roselia. Et putain, je l'avais pas, elle.
Et voilà.
Mais bon,
T'as
j'ai
de la
quand même
chance.
eu des
Franchement,
nouvelles cartes.
Franchement,
Et
mec, t'as
franchement,
fait une bonne ouverture, franchement.
Oui,
En vrai,
oui.
t'as eu 2 AR et une X.
Ah, ça, c'est la technique de
Non,
Piware.
non, la technique de Pure, c'est.
Non, la technique, la technique de Piware, il mélange le téléphone, mais comme ça. On mélange le téléphone et là.
J'ai juste pensé qu'il valait mieux avancer lentement vers l'objectif.
Big threat. We talked about how good they are out of that sort of pump plant.
Vous troisième
They're going to
caméra.
be a team that is always sort of
Ouais,
consistently
deux
in
après
games and then
celle-là.
has a chance to show off what they can do.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, this is now the halfway point. We're going to start game 3. There's only 5 before we close up today, so let's get back into the
Comment
action.
tu classes pour
Tokata,
l'instant?
the best taco, over to you.
C'est pour ça qu'on a des FR, Darkos. Il joue bien là. Il joue bien, c'est des DFR, top 9, Kurama Warex. Screenshot 12. 14, on a Chape Noir aidé. Qu'est-ce qui m'attend que je mette le top 15, top 16 on a DFR. Top 21 les DFR en dessous d'Exeito. Ouais, derrière on a DFR. Hein. C'est compliqué à trouver des Karama, tu fais 2 retours lobby. J'espère qu'ils vont win le spawn là, ils sont en train de faire 2-0 au spawn là.
3 more matches to be played out, including this one. And it's not like the previous season groups, or what used to be called semifinals, where if you didn't make it in one of your first groups, you drop down to the next one. This is basically the last opportunity for these trios to qualify to the major finals. They do have that last chance where Division 1, 2, 3 can compete, but it's only 3 trios that make it through last chance. So this is really where you want to make it happen, where you want to qualify to the major finals.
But hey, Rizoi is a perfect example that you don't necessarily have to be a veteran at these reboot style games in order to find your own level of success. And I think he's not the only one that's looking to punch a ticket into the Major 1 finals. Lusha, Nafrizi, we know that they are in a pretty solid position as far as the leaderboard is concerned, Takata, but even these guys don't want to let their foot off the gas, especially Nafrizi. I have to imagine he is chasing that sensation of actually getting the Victory Royale in this kind of format.
Oh yeah, they just want to close it out. And I mean, we saw Seaport City uncontested the match after Queasy, Murstache, and Swizzy ended up getting that Victory Royale. But now it looks like there's 2 separate trios contesting each other. Most likely, these trios aren't having the best of days so far, so they're kind of looking to see what they can switch up. But the issue about switching up a drop spot, you're not going to have your loot path, you're not going to be as efficient, you're not going to know as much about the trios rotating your surroundings, you're not going to know your path for Storm Surge. It's a lot of difficulties that kind of arise from changing a drop spot mid-tournament, but you know, it's anything's possible in FNCS Taco, so hopefully one of these trios can come out on top.
I mean, we're talking about trios changing their drop spots. We've got Faded Pigeons team going on a bit of a scenic tour from west to east, essentially, trying to see if they could stake their measures in lobby number 3 with a different drop in comparison to where they have been going at lovely lanes. But Pink, Nebs, Chino, they shut that down Demon's Dojo belongs to them, and they are not willing to forfeit that anytime soon.
They are
C'est
not
split
letting
40
that
pour
one
l'instant, c'est
slide.
l'héroïque pour l'instant.
As we look at Eku here alongside
Je peux pas fight directement au spawn.
Pairs or T78 IGL in game, as they are at Flooded Frogs, looking to see if they can just kind of loot up and continue with their game plan. Not too much, pressure in their surroundings, especially now that Noms, Rizoi, and Rippy has qualified.
Even if you qualify, though, from a position, there is no real guarantees that we might see that same level of commitment from some of these teams once we actually make it to that Major 1 finals. Because as the desk has already pointed out, there are teams even in this group today that are potentially looking to just compete to be contested at their natural drop spot as far as that Major 1 finals is concerned. And with that lingering kind of in the back of your mind, you obviously want to get the most regardless, but it's clearly going to be a long fought out process, and fighting is something that Demas' team has excelled at today.
Over at Night Shift, looks like they want to close this one out quickly as Darm has already found an elimination, putting his team now in a position where they do have the upper hand. The moves picks, looking for separate angles, trying to just find where these players are hiding, an opening. It is mostly wood builds here, so if they do want to look for a triple shotgun, might be a viable option. The issue is they're on low ground, and the duo's up above, so I'm not sure what their game plan is going to be here.
Easy, gonna drop for a moment just to pick up some of that leftover material.
Nixo, il 50 HP. 10 HP. Je crois qu'il va tomber, ça va être compliqué.
That's actually going to ensure that this goes in their favor. Easy, but down immediately. No chance of escaping here. And that's a clean trio finish that this team desperately needed, because already another team rolling up on Darm's position.
Yeah, that's the issue in trios. When you hear those shots go off, it's kind of openings for other trios to say, hey, I want to join the party. Where's my invite? As we take a look at Clement Floki, Slox8, heading over towards the Flooded Frogs. I wonder if this is due to them knowing now it's most likely just going to be a solo trio around here, and might open an option for kind of like a soft engagement, not a full commit for eliminations, but more one where they just kind of look for tags and damage.
Vous avez beaucoup de dégâts sur Floki.
The intent here, though, from Floki's team. Obviously, you want to get your pickings while they're good, and with this kind of, late scrolling to where Flooded Frogs is actually taking place for a battle, they're going to be able to take out some of these players that are trying to teleport away. Eku and lose about half his shield in the process here. Split as well from the rest of his team, and that could be the real issue that he encounters currently. Clement also going to make sure to build up above on top of these rooftops here at Flooded Frogs. Just really good leverage against these two other teams. That's just kind of a cutoff. It's preventing anybody from actually escaping Flooded Frogs.
Yeah, it's a great opening for tags, but also it's going to cause his opponents to kind of use mats if they do want to escape, like you said. So we'll see if they just continue with this kind of soft engagement, taking shots when they see openings, but not really going for like a pre-edit or triple spray type of play, more just kind of playing it a bit slower here.
But this skirmish might also change the direction of the narrative that we've been seeing kind of unfold between You also have to remember that each team, Lobbies 1 and 2, kept running in and kind of being forced to pause because these teams were exchanging, their own elims, trying to get surge on each other. I'd expect that that's because Pink's team, uncontested, typically at Demon's Dojo, they've been having to find their surge elsewhere, so they look for that, north base, dead side rotate into the zones. They run into Clement and Slox8 since they're already coming out from that Magic Moss's kind of territory, and now Pink's team, they have surge. Pink's team, they're looking at two different teams entirely. So almost wonder if that's going to bode a lot better results here for Pink's trio in the long term of match 3.
Right, it's all about setting yourself up for the late game, right? Not just acting in the moment, but have your decisions be meaningful ones that are, you know, thought behind them on how is this going to benefit me later on, which is a lot of what these trios are doing. I mean, it does take experience to qualify to the groups and even more experience to qualify to the major finals. As we can see, Nako up top on the hill with his trio, who've already positioned themselves in a nice location to kind of find those tags.
Marco aussi mettre des dégâts dessus.
Back over to Nathan CZB and Eclipse. So far, no eliminations, but
On dirait que c'est obsédé d'eau. Oh, ça peut faire mal ça.
I mean, getting a mat on your rotate, you never really want to stop farming.
Ils vont l'attraper. Ils vont attraper en Gilex. Il l'a pas vu?
Sneaky play out to Andalex here. Close by.
Là, c'est pas grave, c'est la Tu me laisses.
Andalex might have just barely escaped for the moment. It's Marco who is actually under fire currently from Nathan, CZB, and Eclipse. Had Andalex been just like a second later, I think, at running out from his position, he might have just been toasted. Even now, things are still looking incredibly grim for Andalex and Marco. They were hoping probably to just try and take Sato's regard, look for some relatively uncontested position to see if they get that reboot ban going, but now for their lives, like Nathan, Eclipse, and CZB, they have separate base. Two separate surge bases essentially covering the hills, kind of looking into Twinkle Terrace. This would be a tough one for Marco to escape from.
Yeah, the thing is, Marco and Andalex, they have information that Nathan and CZB Eclipse don't, right? They don't know that Andalex was without any shields. If only they had one shot, would have been all the rotates are going to continue for the teams around Brutal Boxcars. This is the drop spot that has that zone that could potentially give you 200 metal per team.
Tough spot here. To stop trying to actually chop out and make the floor from underneath him, and Aiku just gonna opt to, I think, reunite with his team. Once those shots come in from the third party, everyone is on red alert here. They're not trying to find themselves compromised, as tempting as it might have been to continue trying to pursue that elimination onto Nako if he managed to escape.
Is it going to be enough, though? I mean, escaping with that little HP, I'm not even sure if Nako's teammates close by at all. It's going to be a tough one to come back from. We'll have to see if we end up seeing them later on, how they were able to even do that, but so far, Putrix here on a sliver of HP.
Some concerns, though, because it seemed like it was Pink's trio that Putrix kind of had in his sights. Scout, alongside the rest of his teammates, surge basing. They're trying to cut off these teams that are looking to rotate inwards from that Flutterfrog's position, and they know they've likely got the comms on the Swiss directly underneath them, and they're not the only ones. Two separate trios that they've got a pretty prime viewpoint over.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one. Got a full trio in a bush, got one pushed up, another one up top on a surge base. What's going to end up happening here? I'm trying to think myself. I mean, zone's going to close 30 seconds, most likely not going to close onto them. It could happen, but in terms of odds, probably won't, meaning one of them is going to move out. And as they're rotating, the surge base team is looking for tags, and the bush team is just kind of relaxing, dozing off, as now they decide, okay, let's make a move.
Good natural coverage, and they're going to add to the pressure that Squeeze was already feeling from that team inside the surge base. They hold their shots a moment longer. Seems like
C'est une bonne game, mais ça fait 2 retours en notre bilan. Là, je suis un petit stop en plus, c'est quoi direct?
they have fairly limited
Pour faire
shield
3
resources
bons
right
lates,
now,
hein.
and they don't
3
want to
sacrés
burn them all,
lates.
drawing the attention from that team in the Surge Tower.
Yeah, good news about rotating behind a team is you can reuse their builds. Bad news is if they turn around and try and hold you when they're in the zone and you're not, it's going to cause you to lose those builds probably. As we now reach 4th zone, Rift Island, Shogun's Arena is going to appear. As it looks like it's going to be Skrill, Hellfire, and Scrap. They're going to be the trio closest to it, kind of claiming that initial position. In the last game, we didn't see it used that much in the final moving zones to pull further away, but if it ends up closing close to the Rift Island, we could kind of see a similar match to what Queasy, Swizzy, and Murstache ended up doing.
Hellfire might need a few more builds though before trying to take that Queasy approach. 15 material is definitely, you know, it's not impossible to fight with, but it's definitely an indicator that they've had some struggles with some of their rotates in terms of having to probably burn more material than they would have liked to.
Je te mets que c'est barré en bas, wesh.
They're just gonna have to wait for the
Wesh, il s'est barré le mec. Ah, il est remonté, wesh.
Arena. There's a tactical pause for Shogun here. If the, now just like cherry on top would be if they eliminate him on the edge and his medallion fell off the island, but good enough news is that it's not gonna happen.
La Storm.
Let's see how much
Oh, faut toucher les gars, ça va être compliqué sinon. Du côté d'Akira, ça va se fight.
Zero eliminations, so could be part of the reason as we've got
C'est Karma explique en face.
Gentle Mates trio here.
Karma qui est une balle.
Today.
Elle va dire la
Je sais qu'il se fait crack dans le bas, putain, capé.
ça va s'éteindre.
Koda qui est tombé. Attention du côté des FR. Je crois qu'ils étaient... Non, ils sont 3 en face, ok. 23 sous la Storm. Ils attrapent Akira.
From the backside of the builds and split Karma, they know they might have just lost the loot that they were essentially trying to gather.
Faki ça a été de back.
Seems like he's no interest left. They got exactly what they were after. A little bit of damage from a team they could tell was desperate for a fight, and now they're just willing to bail and reposition for elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, they're good to go. 5th zone is going to appear here shortly. Next one is going to be that half in, half out. As now 83 players are up. It's going to have to go down to 74 players in this 5th zone if they want Storm Surge to no longer be active. So the trios that already have enough damage can kind of focus on other things, whether it be fishing for shield fish, focusing more on their rotations, if they have enough damage, even just playing full dead side. But on the contrary, the ones that need that damage now are forced into more risky situations to kind of push trios that might just play fully defensive.
This is exactly what Darwin Davis would be after.
Allez, du côté de Marco, ça tombe. Côté des FR.
5 eliminations already for this trio. So much fish as well. They have been making the most usage of these fishing rods and just finding prime opportunity with so many choices at this point, Takada. They've got ample time to actually choose their next destination.
You know what I haven't been, you know, I want to see more in these groups is kind of the recontest for high ground. Obviously, easier said than done, but if you've got the water sprite, if you've got shield fish, you can kind of make that tanking zone play into triple Oni mask backside of zone onto high ground. Like those plays you can make. We've seen Queasy do it before to aggressively take that high ground. Will one of the trio decide to do it? Time will tell us.
Il a des bons dégâts sur le 300 volts de la Storm. Après les joueurs en face, il n'y a pas le choix. 350 là, ça va être compliqué.
Have such limited opportunity here to actually try and tackle this fight up against Itsu's trio.
Faut pas une katana qui peut faire mal. Il faut l'attraper lui, les gars.
They have no interest in fighting, but the man seems like he might have pinpointed one of them, continuing to try and close the walls around him, see if he can come up. Unfortunately, Eku just 1 box ahead, still managing to create just a little bit of space. In fact, it's even Soxay that's going to be forced on the back foot. He's trying to see if he can recuperate, but but he's burning so much, and soon enough, those surge sticks are going to pose even bigger problems here. But
Nice, non, tu m'as fait tomber. Un instant en plus.
goes down though. Floki with the reversal gets a knock as well. It is a 2 versus 2 now. As shots continue, pressure now eyes on this trio from other players in the surrounding area.
Floki aussi, ça va tomber, ça va être compliqué. Sosei qui a raté sa balle, c'est dommage. Peut-être le knock. Il a plus de balle, Sosei. Il a récupéré le kill. Floki qui repasse au-dessus. Tranquille, Floki qui est au-dessus, faut sortir de là. Non, sortir. Allez.
Frankie's team has just been the grim reapers of these third-party engagements, and hey, if it works, it works, and not even the slightest, but they've got to be careful they don't find themselves becoming victims of their own game plan. Karma now closing in onto a BSK and Moses' position. Still split enough, though, both these teams to kind of take their time as far as choosing.
Darko, ça prend un storm 206. Ouais, c'est Wingat là, il est mort. S'il n'a pas touché, c'est dommage.
What did we just see? Polo going right on in with the Typhoon Blade. Closing out his opponent with a slice.
Okay, something's got to be done about the Shinshin Dynasty at this point, man, because the way that some of these players just zoom into a box, it's so panic-inducing, I think, is the primary issue as well when it comes to dealing with opponents that are kind of wielding that Typhoon Blade.
Ça va être compliqué sous la storm. Pour l'instant, c'est Pink qui dans le right, qui ont une bonne hauteur. On va mettre des dégâts, ok, une petite balle.
Late here, Skies might just find himself getting completely pushed out from the box that he's currently in.
Il va prendre la storm en plus, il va tomber. Fiche, fiche, fiche. Encore un fiche s'il peut. Là, c'est pas gros, là. Ça va être compliqué, un 130. C'est un trio, c'est Jani, Goré, Chapondog. Donc il repasse au-dessus. Pas comme il repasse au-dessus, mais il repasse au-dessus.
Sitting 98 above inside of a cone here, Takada. He still needs an elimination. That siphon could be the difference maker between another placement or two. But if he can also remain hidden, that could also make up for the difference there. Polo giving us a review here, essentially, of what actually happened to Darkos in that moment. Just devious, charging through with the Typhoon Blade like that.
Looking at height, though, we do have Nebs, Chino, and Pink now. Could this be their match? It is 7th zone. Next one will be kind of our first endgame zone, per se. As if they're able to position themselves well enough, they should be the first trio to kind of get there. You can see they already have their Oni masks pre-placed just in case they end up getting chopped down for safety. So got that kind of plan B ready. But so far they have the best position.
Voilà, sneaky sur skills. Nice, c'est Polo ça en plus. Ah bah il a tombé, il a pas fait long feu. Polo qui va tomber aussi.
Opportunity there, but as a solo just finds himself eliminated instead. Chap, yeah, is no O'Reilly though. They're another one of our trios that's kind of inside of these lower layers. And if Pink Nebs and Cheetah are doing their job, like I'm sure they are, it's going to be a very tough rotation because they have so much ability to just see where these Void Owners are actually leading to and just continue to apply pressure, continue to tag to these teams. Chap going to recognize the fact that the high ground team now trying to rotate. This could be their opportunity to move.
On a storm une balle en 50 sous. Ok, ça repasse au-dessus.
That's the issue. Ideally, you want to be ahead of zone, but when you're low
49 encore, Karmak tranquille.
to find those tags, and one of the ways to do so is just wait for all these trios to start rotating in and look for shots onto them. But now the difficult part is getting yourself into zone without landing on another trio, and also kind of being able to stay ahead of it. But it looks like they're going to go for a triple Oni.
Rama, 40 HP, 10 HP de côté de Rama, je crois qu'il va tomber. Rama qui tombe hors de zone,
those are two teams that are really looking to try and come into your height at this stage. Naku, hardcore,
Plus de trucs qui tombent.
also not trying to let this one slip through their fingers by any means. Just doing what they can to create space here.
Un top qui commence à tomber, top 17 qui tombe.
As best they can, but those materials running so incredibly thin so early
C'est
on.
Nathan sur le wide.
Difficult part. It's really hard to take height if you don't have the materials to sustain it.
Pas si Pink c'est toujours en vie ou pas. Il y a knock Arcadia.
As even finding a knock onto Scrapped, now you gotta be aware where this zone pulls. Do you want to be the first to act? But in the meantime, we got Nako, Gide, Harko looking to see if they can find an engagement, but they realize they're far side of zone. There's only 8 seconds left till it starts closing. If they take any fight now, it's just gonna cause them to stagger. So making the right choice to rotate on ahead and continue forwards.
They're going to be on the low ground to the team on height. That's Nathan and CZB's trio. And when you're playing from that bottom side, Takata, it does leave you relatively exposed to just running through all the limited material counts. Nathan continuing to try and crank up, pushing a failed height take attempt here. Really going to get shut down. Nathan happy to collect that siphon material here. And not only that, but he's going to continue just creating this monumental base out of hard materials. Nobody else has a chance to even look up just yet.
Oh yeah, might have been a misplaced Oni mask from Festroki that caused them to get picked off, but now it's all about Nathan, CZB and Eclipse holding on, applying that pressure to any trio that looks like they might want to overthrow them. In the meantime, that trio's also
tombe par Nathan. Pourquoi pas? Je suis top 1 du côté de Nathan. C'est LB.
pressure being applied from above. It's just making it that much more difficult.
C'est ce qui tombe. Chape qui tombe.
Still doing a relatively strong job at just playing to their strengths as a duo. Only one avoid Oni charge left here though.
Batman 1 HP.
With that Miss Medallion trying to escape 1 HP.
Il rate la grosse balle. Il a 1 PV. Top 9. Il met encore des bons dégâts.
Needs to find Siphon, needs to find anything he can to recuperate a bit of this HP. The good news is he's staying sprinting. He cannot stop sprinting.
Oh, il y a knock. Axelici, nice. Il y a des maths.
Now it's going to get a bit of Siphon, refresh on materials. Can he find one more? No, he has to reload. Has now repositioned, playing the backside of the zone. Generally, you don't want to do this, but when you're a solo, it's just the right play.
Top 7.
The invisibility though, and the infinite stamina is just
32
carrying
maths.
him so far. He's running towards the front
C'est
side
bien
of
ce
the
qu'il
zone.
fait. Il gratte bien. Ouh, encore une bonne balle.
Longer he can afford to survive in this type of situation.
Là, il va tomber.
Up on top of everybody else's build, he had nothing left to his name as far as material is concerned. Finally, gonna get put down, but CZB, Eclipse, Nathan on the end of that fold.
Koji qui va tomber. Ouh, il vient de se faire un V2 sale.
Looks like Noah with 2 as CZB, Nathan and Eclipse are continuing with their dominance above.
On aurait lancé le clutch. Je vais essayer de monter mais il va drop. Il a fait team 2-3 sur le line. Comme c'est qu'il y a second tu vas prendre une pression.
Look, there's a method to the madness as far as Noah Riley is concerned. He knows he's got players on the other side of these walls. He's trying to conserve as much of this material that he's left. He knows that he might have.
On va mettre une bonne balle là, il met moins 100, bien joué.
Singular shot. Nathan gonna get clipped.
Il est fait drop.
Can't afford to find that closure. Instead gets the chop continuing to cause mayhem for this team on height.
Ah, dommage, il va tomber. 3v3. Et ils vont win quand même. Ah oui, du côté de CZB, Kicks. Ils auraient pu win en bas. Comme ils ont fait drop, ils auraient pu c'est mon win. Déjà, on va faire ça.
Solid job at defending in those final moments because Noah Riley was just causing so many issues. Had that pump shot connected just a little bit better onto Nathan there, Takata, we might have been looking at a slightly different circumstance there for Fakey's team.
A 99% faith, 1% possibility. Noah Riley was going for the 1v3 on height. I mean, I had faith. I wanted to see it happen, but it was a play that was very difficult to actually pull off. And from game 1 to game 2 to game 3 now, it's just been pure high ground domination. I want to see more trios contest this height. It's just so much more difficult said than done. But congratulations to CZB, Eclipse, and Nathan for taking
17 minutes mon pour la prochaine game, on va checker le classement. Top 10 pour l'instant actuellement 102 points. Top 4 on a Lucha 221 points. Stern 205. Astro qui remonte avec Volko 124 points. Shabjani 7ème 123 points. Pink qui remonte top 10. Et du coup c'était FR, hein, c'est descendu un peu. Top 11, Darkos. Kuraba top 17. Akira top 20. Ondex 25, Trix, Karma 26ème. Ça fait 30 points sur la game. On va voir. J'ai fait une nouvelle vidéo.
Je suis sûr que tu vas regarder ça. Ouais. Elle est dans la télé.
Le plus compliqué de Fortnite. Je pense que j'ai regardé ça, je pense.
Et dans la télé.
Ok les potes, c'est officiel, nouvelle vidéo sur la chaîne Replay. Comme vous avez pu voir, je suis passé enfin Unreal les gars sur un des derniers modes. C'est la ranked en mobile. J'étais avec Social mon duo, celui avec qui on fait pas mal de perfs en tournoi, on cache etc. Donc franchement je l'ai appelé, je lui ai dit est-ce que t'es chaud de venir avec mon duo, on passe Unreal. On a fait des games de fou furieux. Comme d'habitude, tu likes, tu t'abonnes et t'écris dans les commentaires courgette. Savoir si t'es le petit goat, si t'as envie de soutenir la chaîne, bah t'écris courgette, ça fait plaisir. Et on n'oublie pas le code créateur Stizo, STIZO dans la boutique. Et sur ce, bon visionnage. Ok, pas mal. 34. 34 blancs. Ok, donc même quand tu touches pas, ça fait des dégâts à côté. Mais c'est stylé en vrai. « 34 blancs. 34 blancs. Y'a mon chef. Et là on peut se heal tranquillement. Ouh. Pensez il me traite de cheater ou quoi? Enfin on a déjà 4 kills, je pense si on fait top 1. Mais il a paniqué chef. What? Il est mort de chute?
C'est une leçon là.
Oh putain. Oh la vache! Ça y est.
Il est mort, chef. Il est bizarre, lui, hein. Oh merde. Non, il a un HP. J'ai pas de cover, j'ai rien. Oh, le top 2, j'ai même pas passé une rage, je crois.
Salut, Nézé. Ouais.
Oh, 93%, non.
Ah,
c'est pas grave, les gars. Vas-y, j'ai... Mort. Je crois qu'il y a un mec sur moi, hein.
Mort.
BG.
Un mec sur moi aussi.
Ok, l'autre c'est au-dessus de moi, il est au-dessus de moi.
Mort.
Ok, l'autre c'est sur moi, il va me jouer.
Ah parce que là il m'a mis une patate là.
Ouais, il est au-dessus de moi, Sian.
Je cours. Ah je le vois, c'est mon dessus. Mort.
Crack, 190 blancs sur toi. Mort. Nice.
Solo les derniers.
C'est chaud.
J'ai le ventre, il appelle à l'aide.
Oh, regarde le stream hacker. Yo le gout. Comment passer une réal le chat, hein. Avoir des stream hackers, hein. Merci pur.
C'est quand il y a eu les bugs.
Sur moi derrière.
Ouais, c'est son mate.
Mort.
Là, il est crack, je l'ai mis.
Il
est là, là.
Tac.
Ah mon fils, c'est toi, c'est grand.
Encore 2 minutes. Ok.
Oh, il est relou. Je le pêche.
Et son mec de l'autre côté.
« 36. Mort.
HP.
Vu son mate.
Oui, ça doit rien. 71, 90, 100, 150.
74 blancs, j'ai mis.
Tac.
Voilà, merci mon frérot. Très gentil, on peut lui dire merci dans le chat, les gars.
Il est là, on peut mettre.
Il est là, il y a un mec là derrière, pêche-le. Sur moi.
Ah. Au-dessus.
Au-dessus. Encore. Au fond. Moins 15. Ouais, j'ai un HP de shield.
Ils sont où? Je les vois pas.
Au fond, au fond.
Il arrive. 300. 27 dans la voiture. 30.
Un HP, 72 blancs, j'ai mis.
Attends, viens.
16 blancs morts. 56 blancs.
Tac.
Tu tues.
J'ai pas de balle de pont.
Viens, je remets un bidon.
Ah, je sais, j'ai compris. Mort.
Oh, t'es un monstre.
What the fuck? Vous avez vu le bug que ça m'a fait, les gars? Je pouvais pas jouer.
Tac.
Most fans want to see them do it. Major 1 in theory is like the hardest one, right? Because it's the one with the least amount of spots to actually qualify to globals. But yeah, you want to see some of these French teams at least make it to the Major 1 finals to show at least there's some hope here. So 2 big games coming up for sure.
Yeah, and they tried it. I mean, we saw Andalex right there switching back over to Twinkle Terrace off spawn would have helped Nathan and CZB, of course, get that victory royale in terms of their Storm Surge off spawn. So they're trying to change things up, trying to shift things in terms of maybe shifting things into their favor and maybe getting a little bit of extra early surge, but we'll see what they can do in the final 2 games. Only 2 games left to go, Mini. 2 games. We're looking for the victory royale or to end these 5 games in the top 5 as far as consistency is concerned. Let's run it back. The best Taco, Tokata, over to you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Parle
And
beaucoup en Fortnite.
it's been a tough time for the Frenchies, right, Takata? But you still have Havocs and Nathan kind of representing, at least securing that victory royale. So there is going to be some power of France, I think, coming out of Group 2 so far. But whether or not that battle for height actually takes place, that's something that some of these other teams can definitely take note of.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I wouldn't be surprised if that starts changing in these last 2 matches. We don't have to wait long because the battle bus is ready. So let's get the second last match of the day.
Ça, ils vont le mettre mercredi, je pense. Vu que mardi, elle a la performance. Je sais pas. On va voir ce qu'ils vont faire, de toute façon.
It's not now or never, because obviously these teams still have one more game left to work with. But if you are outside of that top 10 position currently on the leaderboard, you can expect that there is, I think,
faire un bon truc là du côté dans du section.
pressure certainly starting to build because
points,
last chance
c'est compliqué.
qualifiers already looking relatively dicey.
Donc le top 10 là c'est à 102 points. Bah, chez un top 1 il n'y a pas de choix. Top 10 ça va être très compliqué.
It looks like they're actually changing up their drop spot to Twinkle Terrace. This is where Nathan, CZB, and Eclipse were dropping. So they said, okay, you know what? It's going to be uncontested most likely. Let's go for it. Luckily enough, no other trios had the same idea. And like you were mentioning, Taco, being the second to last game, throughout game 1, 2, and 3, we've just seen high ground domination. But I wouldn't be surprised if in these last 2 games, we see a lot more trios kind of contesting that height because of what's on the line.
And height might not be the only thing getting contested here as
Mapping qui aime bien le spawn, qui ont gagné le spawn encore, qui sont bien dans le classement là.
At Demon's Dojo by Turtle Vision's team. Pink though knows this drop like the back of his hand. Just waiting to make sure that he's got at least a decent enough loadout. With that Sentinel pump, he can certainly make something promising happen here. It's just a matter of time getting his builds in order to make sure that he can properly challenge this with Chino.
Yeah, you can see how quickly he's rotating through. It's like it's his daily morning routine, getting looted quickly and claiming that space at main here at Demon's Dojo. Even the elevated position with the Oni mask, but he realized that his opponents have done the same. They've already started securing chests and they've just cut out a lot of the loot here.
Ils ont fait 2 retours lobby.
Pink's team might even look to do
Game à 12 points.
potentially revisit this exchange once Vegeta and them actually try and make a play for Night Rose.
Clément, ils sont pas si mal, ils sont 15 points, nice, un PV.
Also find themselves caught up in a little bit of a battle here with Fuzzy, but currently seems like Clement might be getting the better end of this. No, tag from behind though. Decent amount of his shields lost there by Brownie.
Nice.
Smokey might just drop from overhead.
Faire le kill, nice.
Looking for that first knock and
Clément qui tombe.
to secure it onto View.
Nice.
But it's
Bon,
an eye for
le
an
reste.
eye at this point. Brownie's team
Spawn qui est gagné.
can't hold on. Double revive
Et
now
9 points en
onto
plus.
Clement, and France hold strong.
Poda Akira, ici il vient de tomber.
As now they've started off with 3 eliminations. That's good news for
Il y a
this
Split
trio.
à côté, on peut-être back, hein, faut faire attention.
On damage until later into the mid game. Now it's all about loot and getting out of that POI quickly. For Craig though, Azat looks like 105 points so far, looking pretty strong. 1 solid end game is all it would take for this trio to make it further. I mean,
yeah, that.
Ouais, qui récupère un kill.
This trio has not made an FNCS finals yet, so seeing how they already have 105 points, they're not too far from 10th place, right, Taco?
No, definitely
Oui, il y a un
not.
replay.
In fact, it's gonna put them right there on the cusp. But
Oh, c'était sur Akira, il a découpé. Hein.
look back at how Pix successfully confirmed. Nice elimination there for his team. Alex trying to see if he can help out Sato. Marco caught in the thick of it. He's going to be the first
Je le
one
fait sur un Gilex avant. Ok, ça récupère le kill.
But Sato and Alex, they might have been just enough.
Nice. Ouh, le boulot dans Gilex.
Onto that knock. Instead, it's going to be an actual turn and burn scenario here for Alex and Sato. He just needs to get one more to finish the job.
C'est coupé un Gilex.
But the tags are coming through, and Alex, Sato having a relatively rough time here. They
je reviens le chat.
Abdallah inside all the mess though.
Oh yeah, quick cleanup from Andalex on the two players inside of his box. The third one decided, you know, there's a little too risky now in the 1 versus 2. I'm just going to disengage, but that's just what Andalex and Sato needed. They didn't want to take another risk. Sato had no shields. Andalex was the healthy one, so it would have almost been a 1 versus 1. As we look back over to Nefrizi, Lucia, and in-game Rakuzan, but that is Starkus, who are basically already in. They're the highest team in terms of, you know, points on the consistency leaderboard. Be cool if they closed it out with the victory royale, though, especially seeing that Nefrizi has yet to get one, despite being the player that has competed in the second most reboot style matches in the world, as Levin mentioned. So, you know, I think even though they're already almost qualified through consistency, a victory royale would be a nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, it's pretty unlikely at this point that they find themselves knocked outside of that consistency section of the leaderboard, Takata, but for these other teams, Des pointed it out, it would be very nice if Naku's team, or excuse me, the Freezies could actually find that victory royale, because then it just bumps everybody else up one more, makes that gap all the easier to try and close as far as actually securing your spot on the consistency side of the leaderboard.
Ooh. Wait a second though, it looks like back in the snowy side of the map, Volko for Strokey have got themselves into a little brawl, but it's down to a 2 versus 1.
Skizzy, mind if I just try and escape here? For Strokey though, gonna be forced to back up, recuperate some of those shields. Volko though, trying to see if he can get those tags, but he might even chase this one out. In fact, won't even need to. Nake's gonna actually collect Skizzy on that escape attempt. A team already moved into the heart of Warriors Watch. Now means that Volko and Fastroki could find themselves next up if they're not careful, considering that they are just a duo looking for that man opportunity.
Yeah, quick cleanup, but don't want to get too risky, especially when you see a full trio finish off the elimination. Kind of just let them have it. As we look back at Noah, I was feeling some type of way when I saw Noah contesting height in the 1v3 last game. I know he's got that built up kind of confidence inside him now for this upcoming match, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something big come from this trio.
I mean, when it comes to Noah Riley though, I don't think that confidence ever left. He was definitely moving some type of way in the last moments of game 3. Almost makes you wonder. Darkos though, on the other hand, he is in a world of hurting here, just trying to see if he can reconvene with Haiku, but he knows that he's being completely chased down, looking for anywhere to try and slip through. But Nako not willing to give this one up, and I fear the worst is soon to come here, because Nako and Hart, they're just doing everything they can to cut this player off.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Darkos, to be fair, when you've got 3 different players looking for various angles on you, but I believe there's even another trio on the hill taking shots, so you really got to be careful. Darkos is doing a great job of staying up, though, to be fair. Kind of jumping through builds, jumping through windows, doing what he can now with a bit of time to pop a medkit and potentially even a big pot here.
Definitely sending Haruka and Nako at least on a ring around the rosy journey, and now they've got to be extremely careful as far as actually trying to chase this one out, because the shots come through. It's going to be Chap's team hanging out on that mountainside, and they've got pay-per-view scenes here of the fact that there's at least one player trying to run away from a full team, so they know these teams, they're not working together by any means. Chap gonna be the first one down, even preemptively placing the Void Oni TP in case he catches himself biting off a little bit more than he could chew, but with such a strong overview, Kid Ed gonna get ate apart here, just shredded.
These tags can be incredibly beneficial for Chap, Noah, and Yanis here, because as you can see at the bottom right, the zone is pulling a bit towards them, which means they're going to be on the dead side if it continues to do so, and that's just going to open up a lot of kind of safety for them. The issue is, with that safety comes less opportunities to get damage, so if they're able to farm as much damage as possible here, even maybe take the fight, it could be enough for them to just kind of play calm and collected with a great positioning for the late game, as it looks like Chat might be doing exactly that, looking for angles, looking for openings, but so far nothing big connecting.
Have to remember that this is Chap that we're talking about. Guy is like the prime when it comes to fighters on the region. Noah Riley also backing him up, just creating so much space, making sure that Nako and Haruka, they're gonna have a really difficult time looking for the disengage here, but Yanis might have found himself in a spot of trouble. Forced down from his perch.
Yeah, a lot of metal used on that. Now another trio holding both of the trios in a row. Yeah, that's crazy. They got the reboot, it seems. Came back for a bit of revenge. As now Chap, Yanis, and Noah are going to say, okay, this is taking a bit too long. We're going to continue rotating now. We used a bit of mats for this brawl, so we're just going to recuperate that, continue making our way towards zone. But I guess the issue for Darkos and his trio coming from the reboots is now, how are they going to get enough loot? How are they going to get enough mats? Refresh would be ideal, but hopefully they can figure it out.
Ooh.
Wow.
Nice beams from afar there by Floki, just playing from inside the storm. We've also got Pink's team threatening Putrix's. A little bit more mid-map positions for both of these trios involved, and it seems the intent from Pink's team at least is rotate a slightly separate direction. They got their tags. Now they just want to make sure they're reserving as much of the material as need be, but still looking to cover their backs where necessary.
There's just 20 seconds left on this third zone until the see where the fourth one appears. Once again, a reminder that fourth zone is when Rift Island, Shogun's Arena, comes through. So see players trying to kind of position themselves maybe a bit more elevated if it does end up pulling towards them, but probably the least of their worries in this part of the game where they need to get more damage. They need to continue farming their hard mats, especially metal. As we look at Memo here.
Plus Pink's team, honestly, they might need to be the team that takes Shogun's Arena, just because when you think about how this game started off, it's this trio right here, Faded Pigeon, Vegeta, and Turtle, that kind of played a little bit of spoiler alert, just splitting the loot at Demon's Dojo, and now it might come at a cost here. So many teams currently fighting it out by Foxy Floodgate. They're kind of revisiting that point. It's that Pink's team, they need the resources potentially that's provided by Shogun's Arena, but it's going to be two separate trios that have the same mentality here. Skrill and Hellfire, though, not looking too good. Nefrizi getting the better end of these third-party exchanges onto Strath as well.
Yeah, I mean, Nefrizi, Lucia, and Starkers kind of have the freedom of being number one on the consistency leaderboard to play that much more aggressive, that much more confident. But it could lead to their demise. They take down one, but Starkers goes down as well, turning it into a 2 versus 2. Shogun Boss now joining the party, as it looks like another elimination is going to come through for Nefrizi, and they're going to close out.
On va se faire back. Team de 3. Dans la box, faut attraper lui. Faut aider. Nice. Tranquille, bien joué.
Instead, though, he gets absolutely shut down. Jumping straight into Nefrizi's box, thinking that this is an injured trio. Instead, it's the other end of the pump. Nefrizi, one more time, continuing to fight back, just refusing to roll over and let himself get eliminated by this fresh team that tried to roll up onto the island.
Ils sont trop chiants les mecs qui viennent de backstab pour chaque team de 3.
With Shogun over there just exploding through your builds, not a place you want to take a fight at, especially having lost Starkus in the Russell. So now they're going to go back and see what they can do about that, as Dre is going to be able to secure Shogun's Arena.
Well, considering that they lost Marino, it could be very difficult for this team to actually maintain this positioning on top of Shogun's arena. Surely, Nefrizi is going to look for their hit back against the likes of this duo leftovers, but until that takes place, Alak and Dre, they'll at least enjoy having some control with that Shogun Battalion early on.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of playing all or nothing. 30 points on the board. A victory royale is really what they want here. But it's not going to be so easy in the fourth match. There's a lot of trios that want that VR. On the other hand, though, you said, we talked about Pink earlier. I mean, they're in 10th place. They are right on the borderline of qualifying through consistency, which is why they took the safer route in that early game engagement. They can't take any risks. They're just trying to secure as many points as possible, and that's just the position that Nako, Harko, and Kide is also in. They do have that fishing rod to try and secure those extra little shield fish right before the end game. Oh, wow.
It's just crazy to think, though, that Hark and Nako, they've pretty much been chased by O'Reilly, Janice, and Chab since they were both kind of towards that splitting pins position very south of the map. The fact that they are now currently both still rotated in the same area, just wonder how much of it has been these teams kind of evenly exchanging blows, which is why Haruko even forced to kind of look for that fishing opportunity, because they need to recuperate those resources somehow.
Yeah, I mean, if you know that the other trio beside you is also fishing, it's kind of safe to assume that they'll be comfortable peeking you and taking a bit of that damage, as they can just be recuperated from the fish. So it's a good opportunity to get those tags. Andalex, Sado, and Marco, I believe over 300 damage on top of the surge threshold, so they're not in too much of a worry yet. It is 5th zone, so 74 players.
244 minutes
Gonna be what you need
vraiment en face,
on
hein. Là sur le mur.
The pressure is gonna continue.
Just such a forced fight right now, though, for Faded's team. When you're sitting nearly 300 below that damage threshold, and you know that it's only a matter of seconds, essentially, before you're gonna also have to deal with some of these surge ticks. Karma as well. This is a team that doesn't necessarily need the damage. Sure, it'd be nice just because they're about 200 above. Karma's got to be careful, though. The way that he's actually choosing to open up some of these walls, he's got to make sure that he's still maintaining control of these boxes, because Faded certainly looking to barrel right through.
Yeah, now the pressure is on as it has reached the 6th zone, which is the 50-player threshold for Surge. Still 20 players need to get eliminated. So they have to apply pressure here. They have to take this engagement as Figueroa's gone down. Tricks now on the upper hand.
Nice,
Karma was just a sliver of HP, but if he can get one more knock, it could be enough. Just a single shot.
Nice,
to
prends les
connect,
3
he has
kills.
to reload that Oni shotgun, and he does just that.
Il va se faire battre en plus.
With 3 eliminations, but it looks like another trio has come on through.
Even with the siphon being active, Tricks just forced to try and bail out. Regardless, it would not have been a very prime opportunity. He would have essentially been left as a solo in the first place. That revive dream getting shut down the moment that this new trio rolled in. And off in the distance, Alba trying to make history currently with her team. Potentially one of the, trying to be first woman to qual for a major one finals here today. It's had a rough go so far, but Victor Royale, that's all it takes, Takata. Just one win and you are in.
Exactly. That is all it takes. One VR, one match. You could have 0 points, Taco, going into the last match and still qualify if you're able to get that VR. We've seen how dominant High Ground has been.
C'est lourd.
As we continue to move on to Fastroki here and Batman that are 116 above.
Yeah, I mean, would definitely be a historic moment, though, for women across the EU scene if Alba could make herself the first to qualify for Major One Finals here on EU. But again, this is just so dire for some of these teams that are kind of caught in the more congested side of this zone. Fastroki lost his shield entirely. The lobby just taking notice of these teams that are slightly later in for these rotates.
Here you have to be careful because if you look at the 7th zone at the bottom right, there is a chance that this 8th zone is going to pull towards the hill. So if you're planning where to kind of position yourself for the upcoming zones, you want to kind of put yourself in a place where it's easy to get on that elevation later on. For Nako and Haruko though, they've lost a teammate, now forced to play it out as a duo, and this is a team that's right on that borderline of qualifying through consistency, so having to do it as a duo before the moving zones have even started is a difficult position to put yourself into, but that pressure is what you need to create diamonds.
I know what you are, but this is definitely what we've been asking for, right? Teams to really try and take head on that battle for the high ground. Right now, Putrix up against the likes of Peach Trio, Chino, Pink, gonna teleport in even. But they're not the only ones looking to clash.
Faut pas la prédite dessus, hein. Sur la storm, ça peut faire mal, hein.
Coming up on the boxes just behind PKR, but their position going to be given away because they need damage and they have to make it happen now.
Love to see a pre-edit come through here as something that they can capitalize on, having that full trio with basically full HP. You know, there's going to be a lot of solos, duos, and even trios with low shields, so having that potential advantage to take a risky engagement might just be the move here, but it looks like they're going to decide to just rotate on in. Maybe try and look behind them for some tags, but the pressure's on them now. They have to be careful, don't want to fall down below, don't want to get dropped to an opposing trio looking for that damage.
Batman's team, they might have the intentions though to just chop out these floors from underneath. Fakies, Nako, not going to be able to get the job done here. Pink, Nebs, and Chino credited with that elimination. 3 in total, so doing an excellent job though at maintaining their surge. All things considered, when you have such a heavy disruptor for your early game, like what we saw from being
Batman qui récupère un kill face Rookie, Janice qui récupère un kill.
The fact that they're in this current position, all they really need to do is just break their way through to the high ground.
Oh yeah, it's easier said than done though, especially if you're in Festroki's position on the literal opposite side of the zone, having to do the furthest rotate possible in this 8th zone, as now it's starting to come to a close. These trios have 55 seconds now to plan their not only rotate to get into the zone, but the next rotate as well, and that's exactly what Pink, Nebs, and Chino are doing here. Is staying ahead.
Pastroki qui récupère un kill sur Dinox.
Sturkey finds one. Keep in mind though, saw Clement teleporting into that surge base. Might have been pre-existently owned by them as well. Could be some real problems for Pink's Trio.
On va pas lâcher un pic top 1 pour DFR sur le height.
Solo is just kind of stuck on the outskirts of where all this attraction
Le red top 1, ce qu'on a eu les 3 games d'avant, je crois. Clément, tu prends un kill sur Faki. C'est toi qui m'aide. Je vais voir avec sur le height, c'est plus 3 games, 3 top 1.
Position though, north side of zone, right on the mountain. If it ends up pulling back towards them, it's going to be the perfect pull to maintain height. And even if it pulls away, they have so much elevation they can instantly
Ah? T'as perdu? Non, je peux pas regarder là. Je regarde le chat.
Unfortunately for the team on height, it is going to pull back down south. So it's that intense elevation, and now for the not much math.
Il m'a laissé prendre le casque et vas-y. T'as dit oui? Non, il m'a laissé. Il m'a laissé. Et t'as dit du bruit. Hein? T'as dit du bruit? Non. Non, elle est partie. Ça va, ça va, ça va. C'est en anglais. Je peux écouter? Attends, je peux écouter. D'abord, c'est qui? C'est moi-même. Regarde, regarde.
Under their control.
Be careful though, because Chino now trying to get ahead, might even land on
Non,
height.
non, mais
Unfortunately, he's just 2 HP and a tree. Continues to go backside of zone now. He knows it's the way to play.
Je fais le chat, mais je vais enlever la pub.
Especially with zero materials.
C'est en anglais.
Just looking for another solo.
C'est machin maintenant.
Faut pas expliquer sur Chino.
Voilà, ça y est.
Peut-être le temps pour DFR.
Almost immediately, Chap, Janice, Noah Riley on the other hand, kind of working their way through.
Mais tu peux faire?
Non.
So much space established. All of these boxes.
J'aurais dit.
Ta mère, elle va pas moi ça. C'est à toi?
Les FR qui sont sur le high, hein. Qu'est-ce que tu prends les FR?
Attends, enfin, dès quelqu'un, je vois rien. T'as rien à voir. Ouais. Avec un peu d'air, t'as rien à voir. Tu vois?
Je vois le truc qui tombe.
Allez. Comme elle, il a. Ah, c'est. Mais décale-toi là. C'est chouette. Ouais, décale-toi, je vois rien. Attends. Mohamed, c'est pas regarder, ça aide pour rien.
Ou les FR, ils vont toucher.
Il n'y a rien à voir à revoir. Et vous t'écoute, c'est tout.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé du côté des FR?
Il l'a donné pour écouter. Quoi? Mehdi? Mehdi?
Ouais. Janice qui tombe, Angèle qui tombe, Chab qui tombe.
T'as vu, c'est qui a préparé la table? Moi, je l'ai pas. Yeah! C'est qui? Yeah! What? Non. What? Là, c'est pour de fous! C'est qui? C'est personne, c'est une vidéo. Non, c'est qui a préparé la table? C'est Hadna. J'entends rien. Mais enlève le casque. C'est qui qui a préparé la table? C'est Hadna. Tu me fous!
Je peux casser,
Non, t'as dit c'est qui qui a préparé la table? T'as dit Habibi. T'as dit Habibi. Ah, merci, c'est mieux. Non, je peux pas. Je peux pas. Je peux avoir ton épée.
Le truc qui tombe. C'est moi qui est encore là.
Tu peux prêter ton épée
C'est moi qui suis tranquille. Allez, je vais faire. C'est moi qui va tomber. TV2. C'est qui en face? C'est Massia, Kiki et Marvik. Ah, même pas, ils sont 3-1, j'ai même pas vu. Bah, ça ramène du vendeur?
Moi, j'ai un booster. Tu joues toi?
Ah?
Tu joues un booster?
Non, je joue pas pour ça. Avant, je jouais un peu, mais là, je joue pas là.
Close this one out. They did it in Group 1. Now, once again, another team representing Spain has done it in Group 2. And once again, talking about the high ground, the good news is there was a bit more contestation this time around.
Yeah, that high ground just left so many teams torched. They just had nothing left in the tank, it felt like. So, for at the Citos team, they knew.
C'est dommage que tu devais faire top 3 là.
They didn't necessarily have the hard material. It didn't necessarily matter because they knew just how messy those low ground laners actually became. And
Nani!
did itself for this team, but you know, advantage of the opportunity was the play here.
Le petit classement. Tu as 235 points pour le moment. Il reste une game. Top 5, on a Lucha. Pix top 6. Pastroki top 7. Les FR qui remontent top 9, hein. 153 points. Chap, Playlist top 8. Ping top 12. Aku top 12. Top 14. Ping top 12. Mes pour ma top 19. Akira, je pense que ça va être chaud. Hein. Voilà, pour que c'est possible encore lâcher une grosse game ou un big top 1, puis après les autres, là, après il faut lâcher un top 1, sinon ça va être possible de remonter.
Sur moi là.
En dessous de moi là en planeur, c'est lui, j'ai mis 107.
Moins 100. Moins 100.
Là, c'est toi.
Mort. Oh merde.
Là, lui, là.
Bon bas. Oh putain, ils sont en bas.
Moi, je suis mort de chute alors que attends, mais wesh.
Tu dois y aller là-bas,
Je suis mort.
Tu dois y aller là-bas.
Il cheat ou pas?
Je sais pas, mais il m'a mis 250 euros en 2 secondes.
Tu dois venir pour les aider à quoi? En fait, moi, je encore. Et tu m'as
Tu mets un peu.
Ah, je suis dans la merde. Oh non, pourquoi ça me passe à travers? Oh.
M'a eu.
Mais c'est quoi cette dinguerie, frère? Non, mais si on passionnerait sur ça, j'ai trop le seum.
Pour que cette fois, tu vois. D'accord.
Bah si, bah voilà, je passionnerais. Oh.
Attends, Attends, 1, 2, 3.
Je voulais pas passer une réale sur cette game. Oh, elle est miteuse. Bon les potes, la vidéo elle est terminée, j'espère qu'elle vous a plu. En tout cas les gars, n'oubliez pas le petit like, de commenter. Franchement ça soutient parce que la chaîne replay, on va aller chercher les 50 000 abonnés. Et surtout de vous abonner et activer la cloche les gars. Je rappelle actuellement il y aura 3 à 4 vidéos par semaine sur cette chaîne Stizo Replay. Et un short tous les 2 jours. Donc bref les gars, go donner de la force au max et ça soutient. Sur ce on se dit à une prochaine vidéo sur la chaîne replay. Des bisous.
C'est Steve.
Ça, c'est tous les V-Bucks que vous allez pouvoir gagner dans cette vidéo. Parce qu'avec Gio, aujourd'hui, notre objectif, c'est de faire le plus de kills possible. Et celui de nous deux qui en aura le moins à la fin devra payer les kills de l'autre en V-Bucks. Donc je vous explique, le calcul, en fait, il va être simple. Nos deux cagnottes commencent à 0 et tous les 2 kills, on rajoute 1000 V-Bucks. Par exemple, à la fin, si j'ai 10 kills et que Gio en a 5, alors il devra payer ma cagnotte de 5000 V-Bucks. Donc on vous expliquera plus tard pendant la game comment vous pouvez les gagner. Pour l'instant, on va rejoindre Gio juste avant. Pensez bien à rentrer le code créateur yo-yo dans la boutique. Il y a de plus en plus de combos qu'ils mettent là, ça régale, merci beaucoup. Voilà, maintenant que c'est fait, on peut rejoindre Gio. Allez, c'est bon, je suis dans le bus avec ton monteur préféré aujourd'hui. Je suis désolé les mecs, parce que ce que je vais faire, c'est que je vais le ruiner. Voilà, c'est pas cool, je le sais. Comment tu vas, Gio?
Frère, aujourd'hui c'est moi, casse des gazos, tes mains à la taille de la Kista, aujourd'hui tout ça. C'est ce que tu vas payer pour les abonnés, poto. Je te le dis, tu vas perdre le concept.
Non, là je suis on fire, je stop direct, direction mon spawn, mon gars. Je te le dis, tu vas payer minimum 5000 V-Bucks.
T'as mangé un clown, t'es drôle aujourd'hui, il est drôle les gars yo-yo. Alors qu'il passe 8 heures pour faire 150 kills en live. La balle perdue, c'est gratuit, c'est offert par la maison.
Alors déjà, c'est pas 8.
Bah du quoi?
Est-ce que tu sais c'est quoi le mot de passe s'il te plaît? Ouais, je sais pas ça.
Le mot de passe?
Ouais, c'est ça.
Je sais pas si je l'ai.
Si j'ai chatouillé, ça veut dire. Non, mais c'est le poli. Moi, je suis chatouillé. Ça veut dire. Il rigole. Il rigole pas quand il a vu sa tutu. Ah, ils se mettent des deux, il y en a, ils ont déjà mis dans sa bouche. Non. Ah, mets l'attitude. Parce que c'est moi qui l'avais mis.
On l'a déjà fait là.
Tuer. Non, mais comprends. Tuer.
Tu vois?
Attends, toi tu dois venir et moi je dois me mettre là-bas. Venez. On va dire que je suis le lapin. Venez là. On va dire que je suis le lapin. On va dire, j'ai une idée.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FNCS. This is it, the last game in heat number 2. We need a victory royale to place top 5 in consistency, or we're gonna have to take things to the last chance qualify. We don't want that. We want to make it through to the Major 1 finals right here, right now. Again, if you missed it, Kifo, Marvick, and Adesido got themselves a victory royale, and they needed it. They only had 9 points going into that last game, but this means they will now look forward to the Major 1 finals. Gentlemen, there's a couple things we need to discuss because this battle for that top 5 in consistency is extremely close. What we did see after the last game, though, Slotse, Floki, and Clement, after that game...
Tiens, c'est bon.
Vas-y.
Frérot, c'est 6h et c'est pas
c'est la même chose, c'est la même chose.
350.
Te trouve pas d'excuses, t'as loser.
N'hésitez pas à venir me voir en live, ce concept c'est tous les lundis à 16h.
Bon, j'espère qu'on va être un minimum contest quand même parce que le but c'est de faire des kills. Et de ce que je vois, il y a personne là, donc c'est pas très cool.
Moi je vois, moi je vois 2 gars. Il y en a un, il est parti là-bas, là, juste le truc à côté.
Ok, intéressant.
L'autre, je sais pas. Ah, mais si, les deux sont là-bas en fait.
Ok, bah moi ce que je vais faire, c'est que je vais faire le bot.
34 blancs. 34 blancs encore. 68.
Mort.
Mais va t'acheter un jean, espèce de voleur, va.
est mort. L'état mort. Ah, je suis primed.
T'es vraiment... La prochaine fois, je me tais, frère.
Mais toi, t'es le seul mec con dans ce concept pour me dire hey, il est mis les mecs à un HP.
Mais je commande pour la vidéo, en fait.
Bah commande, moi ça m'arrange, mais te plains pas quoi, c'est ça que je te dis.
Attends, excuse-moi, hop, j'ai un kill à faire encore, voilà, parfait. Ça y est, je t'ai rattrapé, 2 kills chacun. Hop là, les cagnottes sont égalité.
Toi, t'as pas compris qu'à ce moment j'étais on fire. Récemment là, j'ai battu Enzo en 1v1, je vais le répéter toute ma vie, ouais. J'ai battu Enzo en 1v1, y'a plus un qui me fait peur. Hein. Là, je prends des fights en 2v1, j'en ai plus rien à foutre. Hein.
D'accord, et ça te fait pas peur de voir que t'as moins de buzz que ma petite soeur? Ma petite soeur, dans la dernière vidéo, elle a fait plus de likes que la dernière vidéo avec toi.
Ouais, mais ça se fait pas déjà, les gars. Là, c'est n'importe quoi. Du coup, ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va remédier à ça. Et que cette vidéo, elle a fait combien de likes, ta soeur?
Elle a fait 3000 likes et toi 2500, alors qu'il y avait plus de vues avec toi.
3000, c'est trop nul. Nous, cette vidéo, on va faire 4000, les gars. 4000 pouces bleus, mettez des likes, s'il vous plaît, pitié.
Et pensez à vous abonner aussi si c'est pas fait, parce que ça régale et qu'il y en a plein, vous y pensez pas. Sinon, sur ce, moi, je suis plutôt Gucci. Je vais aller rush le max de personnes possible dès maintenant.
Ah, vas-y, moi, j'ai fini de stuff aussi et je vais arriver.
Elle est bien vide, cette map, hein.
Guys on me! One dead.
Quoi? Pourquoi moi y'a personne?
Bon, je sais pas, ils viennent à moi.
Ouais, mais ça c'est parce que t'es un bot, frère, ils viennent entre bots.
Allez, nickel, je prends une pièce et j'arrive.
Ah, mais c'est ça qu'il me faut, c'est une voiture pour me déplacer, trouver un max de monde là. D'ailleurs, les mecs, c'est vrai que là vous êtes peut-être en train de vous dire, attends, mais il nous parle de V-Bucks, mais comment on peut gagner ces V-Bucks en fait? Mais pour ça, c'est très simple, il vous suffit de rejoindre nos 2 Discord, le mien et celui de Gio. Les 2 liens seront en description, parce que c'est là-bas qu'on vous annoncera quel jour et à quelle heure on vous distribuera les codes de V-Bucks. Voilà, donc pensez bien à les rejoindre pendant que moi, je vais farcir le gars qui est devant moi. Et voilà, bon. Donc voilà, si vous voulez un maximum de chances de pouvoir gagner les V-Bucks, pensez à rejoindre nos Discord.
Et ouais les gars, soyez à l'affût, hein, ça va drop rapidement, moi je vous le dis. Oh yo, j'arrive sur du fight, et là crois-moi que c'est pas des bots.
Ok, moi aussi ça tire devant là, je crois que c'est des mecs qui ont pris le train.
Un mort?
Ah punaise, il est trop loin le train, mais tu te régales, je croise personne.
Touché. On HP. Mort, 5 kills déjà yo-yo. Et dans le rétro poteau.
C'est vrai que t'avances là, pour l'instant c'est à moi de payer là.
Les gars, de toute façon, faites vos pronos dans les commentaires. Mais on est tous d'accord pour dire que c'est...
Bon, normalement ça va se... Bon. Non, 1 minute.
Yo-yo qui va payer, lui il pense qu'il y a du suspense. Il fait trop rire ce mec.
Attends, je suis en train de rush un gars qui a un katana là. Hop là, 11. Viens par là toi mon grand. Oulala non. C'est bon, let's go. Allez, 4 kills.
4 kills contre 5 kills.
J'ai qu'un kill de retard,
mais cette semaine tu peux pas gagner tous les concepts. T'as déjà gagné le devine le prix des setups des abonnés. La vidéo qu'on a faite cette semaine, là tu peux pas gagner celui-là frère.
Ah ouais, c'est vrai que t'as arraché sur ta chaîne. C'est vrai que sur ta chaîne je suis bon comparé à sur ma chaîne, hein. Je te rassure dans tes commentaires, je te gagne dans tes concepts.
Toi tu buzz que chez les autres toi.
Ouais, y'a que chez moi que je suis trop nul. Toi ça tire un petit peu vers toi, il se passe des trucs ou pas du tout?
RS poteau là justement, cherche du monde.
Ok, moi je suis en train de suivre une voiture là, il y a 2 mecs devant moi. Mais il échange un esprit, je vais le farcir. Crac. Oh non, ils ont le même skin, c'est les tryharders. Un KO, hop là, je l'ai fini, let's go. Je reviens à égalité.
Ah oui,
oh,
tu laser?
Non, il me laser pas, non. C'est toi qui me tire dessus là.
Oui.
Non, arrête, pour de vrai, arrête.
23, je l'ai mis, allez.
Allez, Yoann, on charge tout.
Ah là, je suis là.
Non, voilà, je te l'ai volé. Enfin, je me le suis volé, enfin, c'était mon kill.
Mais non, mais j'ai fait tout le travail. Mais non.
Mais qu'est-ce que t'as fait? Tu m'as juste perturbé, ouais.
Mais frère, j'ai full laser, je lui ai mis 40, puis après je lui ai mis grosse balle de pompe.
Bon, en tout cas, c'est moi qui prends de l'avance sur toi, et ça me régale. Oh, il avait l'air mythique. Ah ouais, c'était des bons, Ah, mais voilà, là, je redeviens un petit peu...
Vas-y, let's go. 5ème game la dernière. Check classement. Top 10 contre 5 actuellement. Ah, c'est quoi là? Là aussi c'est poil. Maintenant 135 pour 200 points, bon 200 points c'est quoi là? Là c'est pas sûr encore votre quoi là. Ça je peux remonter. Mais là top.
What's scary
Top
here,
5 et
Taco,
top 6 ça
is
répond
the
pas.
trios that are contested. We saw that Pink is one of
On a
those
du gros dernier
trios
game.
that is having a little bit of trouble at Demon's Dojo. Not because they can't win that fight, but just taking that fight is a risk in itself when you're so close to qualifying through consistency. They don't need a massive game, they just need to make it to the end game, and this early game fight is going to decide that.
If Pink's trio finds their moment, be hard-pressed to believe that they wouldn't try to take it, but Vegeta, Faded Pigeon, Turtle, they are not making it easy because, at the very least, they're splitting this POI, and it's so annoying, I would imagine, for Pink's trio specifically, because they went the first 2 lobbies not having to worry about it, and then the next thing you know, conned. Not gonna say that it was unexpected entirely though, but Chino, Pink, Nebs, it seems like they'd rather give up.
Ça c'est ma voiture, mais j'ai pas caché. Moi j'ai caché la poupée Barbie.
Pour un mamèche, ça fout des ventes. Faut super un kill. Elles sont compliquées en vrai avec son solo club, ça.
News for them is they do have masked meadows uncontested, so they can focus purely on looting efficiently and playing for their mid game. Not all trios are this lucky when they're going for the consistency, but it looks like the M8 squad from Gentlemates are getting themselves into a 3v3 here. 45 points on the board, they're going to get more towards that victory
Il a eu peur, mais je te dis un indice. Ouais, non, c'est moi qui va le tirer un indice. C'est toi dans la shop. Et Améti. Il y en a 2 dans la shop Améti. Il y en a un dans le salon. Il y en a un dans le salon et un dans la shop. Tu veux que je te dise où il y en a un? Là. Là, arrête de tirer. Là. Oh, mais c'est bon, tu l'as pas trop, faut qu'il découvre. Faut qu'il trouve tout seul. T'en as pas fait dit non. Ok, bah il a trouvé. Je vais le cacher. Je vais le cacher, reste ici. Reste là. Ah non, non.
Côté de Nemo, ça se passe.
Je sais, il va le regarder.
There's opportunities.
Non, reste ici. Elle a sa jambe à
Chance 3 trios will make it through. We'll see if they have what it takes for that. As we look back into Karma at Brutal Boxcars, this is a very difficult drop to play if you're contested.
On met regarde, c'est
You
quoi?
can make use of the train, you can kind of calculate your whole split, but when you're contested, it kind of messes that whole situation up. So the good news is if you are able to come out on top quickly, I mean,
c'est bon. Pas les
going
sacs.
into the late
Il y a
game,
le sac.
especially for the victory royale.
Karma, though, probably hoping that a third party doesn't roll up anytime soon. Not exactly the greatest fighting loadout of all time. You see them trying to scurry away from that position there. Inside of the boxcars, head a little bit more towards those mountains. Maybe
Mais dis, tu manges avec nous après? C'est en tournoi là? On va bientôt manger.
Make sure that they're not getting challenged just so
Mohamed,
after winning.
vu que Yasmine n'y a pas lien.
Potentially looking for a quick 3-2-1 there, but the opposing team did catch them. So no connections are going to be made. So I'm trying to see there's the Oni mask around them, continue rotating through, get more center also, making sure that they're getting as many materials as possible. It's quite simple to get wood and brick, but the issue is finding kind of stops and including that in your rotation. Boxcars might be one of the options here, but from what I'm seeing, I think they're just looking for damage.
Like saying, Clement, though, they're trying to take matters into their own hands, to be the ones fully to get a successful team wipe at Brutal Boxcars. That could be the difference to set them up and break the pattern, right? That wasn't it kind of highlighted as been sort of sitting next to them all day long here. PKR, though, punished while trying to farm some material from Pink at the mountainside. Pink, Nebs, and Chino also trying to commandeer how this 95 actually breaks out for them.
Yeah, they might want to just even force the fight here. They got less loot for having to split their drop spot. It looks like they did a bit of damage, but it's just so stressful when it's literally your last chance to qualify. You're on the borderline, even if you're confident playing mechanically. It's just a risk you really don't want to take. So I guess we'll see a lot of more soft engagements come from this trio until they have a clear option of an advantage in one of these fights that they can go all out in, but it's going to be a bit more of a safer route for Pink, Nebs, and Chino as we look at a trio in a similar situation, Volko, Vistroki, and Batman.
I think for some of these teams that have that more veteran experience though, like Pink, like Nebs, you almost have to play this lobby as if it isn't your last. Because you don't want hesitation to then cause problems with commitment to your strategy. And that's something that I think even some of Fortnite's finest can definitely encounter as a difficult measure, especially when everybody would love to be in the Major 1 finals. But the reality is, Takata, only 10 of these teams are going to be able to confirm it here today. One more victory royale, the rest to be determined by their consistency and placement on the leaderboard. It's just such a tough metric to hit.
It's easier said than done too. Not only the qualification, but I mean just not feeling that stress. I mean it's the last game of potentially one of your last chances to qualify. So even if you know you want to just play confident and aggressive, it's difficult to do, you know? Like that pressure is going to be in the back of your mind, even if you have that experience competing. To completely just eliminate that is quite difficult emotionally, but like you said, these are veterans of Fortnite competitive. They've been training for years, and some of them are able to do exactly that. And we saw Noah's confidence in these matches, something you said never left, as they continue to just kind of look around for opportunities to get tags.
Yeah, if anybody's been able to overcome pressure today, it's definitely Noah Riley, but realistically, all that trio needs is to actually be a trio in those final moments, because that might just be the one separating factor. And of course,
C'est quoi?
everybody actually scopes out on the map inside of some of these final moving zones, but Noah Riley, if he's doing that with Giannis and Chap next to him, that's a victory royale in the making.
Tout à l'heure.